could do with knowing what Mindless Marbles is referring to here, because as I've said in my reply, don't know what. I don't really know what he's talking about, and I'm suffering with back pain at the moment, so it's a bit difficult to concentrate on Gary's garbage. But I suppose I'll make the effort. Oh. 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 Funny thing, out on the way to it.
Alright, time for the draftphysics.com video presentation. So, I was working on another lever experiment, and, I accidentally kind of fell upon an idea, and it sort of worked, and it might be a shortcut. It might be a way of evading having to do the actual smashing things into things with levers and instead just use a coupled oscillators, what they're called.
What's wrong with doing the experiment you said 2 years ago would settle the matter once and for all? Just launch two balls off the edge of a table using any spring-loaded mechanism. You said it would prove things once and for all, and it proved you completely and utterly wrong. Why are you coming up with yet more crappy experiments to avoid facing the music on that one? Why have you never ever done it? You said it was the simplest experiment, you just couldn't be bothered doing it. Well, you can be bothered doing experiments now, so be bothered doing that one. Seeing as you said that my 3 goes at it, which got better and better until the results came absolutely spot on, never ever exceeding 1.4, which you claimed was impossible. You expected a 2 times velocity result. You expected the half mass to go 2 times further, not 1.4 times further. I got a result where it came out 1.28 times further, about 1.29 times further. Then I perfected the spring-loaded mechanism. I used your design of a simple elastic band, quick release mechanism, releasing it off a pin, and I attached it to the wall so it wouldn't lose any forward. Can't think of the word. So it would have a solid base to work from, shall we say? And it came out perfectly, 1.41. Isn't that strange? Never exceeded that, never. Now, why haven't you done that experiment, you silly arse?
So here's an example of the ones you'll find online. Now they can't say for sure, okay, but I haven't been able to find any where they use uneven masses. So if somebody can find a coupled oscillator with uneven masses, like 2 to 1, ideally, that would be helpful.
Two masses.
So the idea is one stops, okay, this one stopped now, and that one's got all the energy. Then this one stops, this one has all the energy. The energy is clearly moving back and forth, and the energy is momentum. The momentum moves from one object to the other object. The mass and velocity move from one object to the other object. The fact is I accidentally sort of, well, it's really not an accident, I guess, because I thought of it. Why not use the lever to couple the oscillations? Because then I can have uneven masses without them knowing they're uneven masses. Okay, the lever makes them equal, and so it's sort of did in fact work to couple the twice as heavy object to the other object and to basically create a coupled oscillator that is where all the motion is in one object and then all the motion moves to the other object. And that's basically all we want to do is move the momentum from the heavy one and then move it to the light one and then you move it back again and you keep moving it back and forth, and as you keep moving it,
it would help just to show this experiment. Let us see the full thing, so we can see how it's suspended above and that, because let us see it from beginning to end. Explain, give us the information we need to make a proper rational judgment about what you're doing here. What's that thing in between? Is that like some one of your homemade springs? I know you like to make your own springs instead of buying them, but That doesn't help, does it? Coupled pendulum minus the bagpipe music. Oh, that's somebody else's. Oh, it's not even your experiment. So this isn't your experiment, somebody else's. Right. I thought it was unusual for you to have bothered to have two shiny objects that you'd pay good money for. Well, what? Anyway, let's play on, see if it eventually reveals itself in any fashion. I suppose I've got to go to see the other guy's thing.
Back and forth, it makes it obvious that it has to be the same amount of energy because you're moving it back and forth, and it can go on for 15 minutes. So you're not losing very much of the energy as it cycles through. So there's no excuses about deformation or heat or air resistance or some other nonsense. It's clearly 100% of the momentum is in one object, and then 100% of the momentum is in the other object. And because of the mass differentials, it's clear, okay, that kinetic energy isn't playing a role anywhere. All right. So with that stated, I guess it's worth drawing it, and then I'll link to a couple of videos that I'll leave as unlisted. So in the description, I'll put a link to the two raw videos, and they're just raw videos. I can improve the experiment, but I really shouldn't have to because there should be a concession by maybe I can get physicist Michael to concede that if I can create a coupled oscillator between a twice as heavy object and a half as heavy object, that I will in fact be making it, it will not, it'll conserve momentum. If he concedes it has to conserve momentum, then he has to concede that it won't conserve kinetic energy, and there'll be no evidence of kinetic energy. All right, so what I have done is something rather simple. So I have a suspend from the ceiling. I have my balance, my lever, and I have merely hung from 7 or 8 feet on one mass. Well, this is the 2 mass side, a 2 mass and a 1 mass. Okay, twice the distance. All right, and basically how it works is, which is neat, you can actually get the motion towards each other. Now I have to do something to force them not to turn and to twist and to spin, so I can work.
Is this an experiment you're proposing, or one you've actually done? Because what's the point of proposing yet another experiment that if we did it and we could show it prove kinetic energy once again, that you would then ignore and you would never actually build it? You've already proposed an experiment and ignored your own proposal when I did it diligently. And of course you lied that it was sloppy. It wasn't sloppy at all. It was a very good experiment. I did it 3 times, and each time I corrected things that you objected to, just to be sure. You objected to me launching pennies at first because you said the disc shape made them act like frisbees and slowed them down by 0.6. Absolute nonsense. So I brought to listen to you. I thought, okay, well in that case I'll do what you changed the rules. You moved the goalposts because you previously hadn't said that they couldn't be disc shaped. You simply said launch any objects. So I just chose pennies because they were convenient to make 2 mass and 1 masses out of. But you changed the rules, you moved the goalposts, and therefore I followed what your new version of the experiment, the new rules. I used spheres, steel balls, because that's what you said I would have to use. I used them, still came out proving you wrong. Then you objected to the launch mechanism. So I changed the launch mechanism to what you said it should be. I used your elastic band release mechanism, and it still came out showing you to be utterly wrong and kinetic energy to be perfectly right. And since then, you've just talked a load of old garbage about it. What did you object to this time? I don't know. You just said it couldn't be true or something mad like that. So why haven't you done it and showed us where I could possibly have gone wrong? Launching balls off the edge of a table. How is it possible to get that wrong? Once it's been launched, it's out of my hands. It was a good experiment proposal, really. Like you said, it did prove the matter, settle the matter once and for all. You've just refused to accept the result because it doesn't suit you. So now you keep straw manning by coming up with ever more stupid ideas. Desperate. So it's pointless as following your suggestions, your proposals for new experiments, when you're just going to ditch them when it doesn't suit you, when the results come out proving you wrong. You're a cheat, a liar, a despicable twat. I have no respect for you whatsoever, because you don't deserve any respect whatsoever.
That out. But so currently you just give this a motion, okay, force in, and what will happen is these two things will oscillate towards each other, and at one point this one will stop and all the energy will be over here, and then this one will stop and all the energy will be over here. And you can see quite obviously that this one's moving twice as fast. It's doing a much bigger arc. The arc for this one is much bigger than the arc for this one, and conserving the momentum, and
There's a lot of assumptions here.
I would argue proving the point. Okay, now I didn't bother doing frame rates and all that crap because theoretically I shouldn't have to, because everybody should concede I can't change the amount of momentum. If it jumps back, if it keeps doing this over and over again 10 times, 50 times, you'd have to concede that obviously it's all the momentum is going from one side to the other side. So it really is your job to say something else could possibly be happening. But anyway, we'll see. We'll see how reasonable people are.
So I'm confused now. Is this your experiment or someone else's?
The real concept. Everybody knows coupled oscillators. Physicists will concede momentum is conserved. So if coupled oscillators by definition conserve momentum, then this one has to be not conserving kinetic energy. And somehow you're ending up with more kinetic energy over here than you have over here. And that's nonsense. Everybody should know that, so it can't be. I shouldn't have to explain why that would be ridiculous. All right, so let's find the two videos. And we'll do the forward-back one, I think, first. I just have to find that one. Should be this video, I guess. I'm pretty sure. There you go, yeah. All right, let's see how bad that looks.
Oh.
And section.
Now. Now we reckon. Now this is definitely one of Gary's experiments. Gary's experiments are quite instantly recognizable, aren't they? By their shitty quality. Oh my god. I need something stronger than a cigarette to motivate myself to watch this. What the fucking hell are you filming this on, Gary? Looks like there's fog in your own house.
The sound isn't any. And alright, so you can get the idea. Alright, the mirror screws it up a little.
So professional.
But this idea is, okay, so I gave the energy to the big one, and now it's transferring it to the small one in the background. Here's the small one, and it's getting faster, and its arc is getting bigger and bigger, and this one's slowing down and slowing down, and it'll eventually almost, right about there, comes to a stop. And now all the energy is in the small one, and now it's going to start pushing on the big one. And it really looks, when you see it from different angles, it almost looks like they're magnets, and they're actually pushing on each other.
Look, I don't know about anybody else, but I can't see what the fuck. He's filmed it from such a stupid angle. Can't see what the hell's going on. You need to be filming it not from this angle, but from that angle. So, to have a side view of the experiment, not an end view. Anyway, let's persevere.
It really has a real look of them directly interacting, even though obviously they're not directly interacting. So now we have a full swing over here, and this one, the little one is stopped, and now you're going to start pushing the little one again. So now for each swing, you can see the little one going faster, and then it goes faster. So the energy is being switched over to the other side, and such. And it goes on, and this is a 15-minute video. So just one piece of energy put in, and this thing went on for 15 minutes. I mean, I'll just jump ahead. I mean, obviously it slows down, but 15 minutes later, it's doing the same thing. Well, in this case, 4 minutes. There's 7 minutes later. Yes, it's getting a little feeble now, but still doing the same thing. And maybe it runs out in 10. Okay, I walked away, so I didn't watch the whole clip. But anyway, they're still moving when I got back. That's the point. So obviously,
you were that dedicated to it, you couldn't stick around to watch it for 15 minutes.
Energy of this experiment does stay in the experiment a long time. All right, so now we'll find the other one, and see what we.
And he talks about other people's experiments being sloppy.
So this is a better-ish angle, and as I stated, imperfect. I should have made sure this one wasn't moving before I started. So there, I'm initiating the action. All right, so it's pushing on the little one, and with each movement, the little one's getting faster and faster. The big one's slowing down, and you can see the little one's going really quite fast. A very big arc. And there'll be a point where this one almost stops. It's going up and down, and that's what makes it look like it hasn't stopped, but it actually has stopped. And now the little one's going to push on the big one. So I pushed on it, and it pushes on it. And can you see that? Yeah. Yes, you can, even with me in the way. So it's pretty dramatic when you watch it.
Still can't see how they are attached because it's filmed so badly. Too much is left to the imagination as to how it's constructed. At least when we do an experiment, we move the camera about in real time and what have you. We show you close-ups of all the bits and parts, and we explain in precise detail. We weigh things accurately. You've not weighed these things, so we just have to trust you that these are 50-50 ratio, 2-to-1 ratio. And frankly, I don't trust you. I think the reason you've not filmed it properly is so that we can't construct it and reconstruct it and properly tell what's going on, because you've just shown us the bits you want us to see. That's how it seems to me anyway.
All right, so now this little one stops. So it stopped, now it gets pushed. Push 1, push 2, push 3, and push 4. So now it's really starting 5, it's starting to speed up. 6. So the whole idea is instead of transferring the energy in a lever really quickly, you're doing it in little impulses. And obviously you're conserving an awful lot of energy, so the lever is moving up in the air, but it's moving up very little for the amount of action it's creating. So there's very little loss to moving the lever. So the lever is just doing a little movement, and it's creating the very large transfer of the energy from one side to the other side. So the little one stopped, now it's getting pushed again. You can just see it push, push. It goes faster and faster. The arc gets bigger and bigger. So, in my opinion, this is good enough theory. Okay, now,
In your opinion, this is a good enough theory? Then you have a very low threshold of proof. This, this just looks like yet another shitty concocted piece of crap.
like I said, we'll see if the buttheads are going to sit there and contest the function of a coupled oscillator and contest that momentum has to be conserved, and therefore contest that, yes, these type of experiments basically prove there's no room for two theories. There's only one theory. Either momentum is being transferred between the two objects or kinetic energy is. And the fact is that kinetic energy can't be, because obviously the two objects are different masses, and you can't conserve the momentum and the kinetic energy. It's not possible to conserve both. All right. I don't know how much more you need to see. Blah, 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 blah. Like I said, see, I can probably run a wire that prevents them from turning, so it'll be even more visually interesting because they'll stay pointed towards each other, and so that might make it easier not only to do frame rates if you feel it's necessary, or to by some other mechanism. You can always just measure the time of the period, I suppose. But anyway, we'll see. So maybe the lever experiment is unnecessary for the people who recognize that this probably has functionally duplicated the exact circumstance and done it in a way where I don't have to waste any energy moving a heavy lever. All right. So the little one stops, the big one's moving, and the little one will start moving, the energy will go into its precession. Push, push again, one more push, two more pushes maybe, and then the big one will stop, and the little one has got all the energy, and then it'll go right back into the other side again. All right. So maybe it's enough of a video. Let's see if we can get physicist Michael to respond to the concept of a coupled oscillator. And
that would be good, actually. Yeah, let's have somebody intelligent and informed and disciplined to, let's hear them comment on this piece of crap, because why do we need a coupled oscillator to confuse a simple issue? You've already proposed a nice simple issue that doesn't have any complications. Launching a ball off the edge of a table and halving the mass and expecting it to go 2 times faster, 2 times further. And it didn't. It did the exact opposite of what you claimed. It went 1.4 times further. And yet, never even a centimetre further than it should have gone. Because it doesn't, that isn't how nature works. So why are we now looking at yet another concocted piece of crap that's confusing to follow what the hell is going on? I'm thinking, well, if we had just a single pendulum, set that in motion, that would go for 15 minutes, wouldn't it, before it eventually died down. So what is the difference really between comparing that to having a coupled oscillator, which is quite a posh term to make it sound like a useful device? In what context would this be a useful device? When are coupled oscillators usually used? I would have imagined that they would be used in such things as, you know, when they're trying to stop a high-rise building from collapsing due to wind blowing it, and then it'll have a fundamental frequency, so it could sway until it toppled it with the right wind blowing it. So they sometimes have a weight at the top of the tower, don't they? Calculated by people who believe in kinetic energy. Well, they don't believe it; they know it to be true. They don't belief shouldn't really enter the lexicon of a scientist. I don't think really. It's not really. It's an inappropriate word to use in most circumstances. You can believe in God or not believe in God. You can believe in Santa if you want to. You can believe all sorts of things, but from a scientific standpoint, belief doesn't really come into it. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked now, aren't I? But yeah, a coupled oscillator, I would imagine, would only be useful in situations where, well, I'm not really sure, to be honest. I can only think of that example. I'm thinking of examples, though, vaguely in the back of my mind. I'm thinking of examples where I've tried, when I was experimenting with sound, um, trying to couple two piano strings together, linking them in some way. One is vibrating at one frequency while another wants to vibrate at a different frequency. Then I would try and link them together with a piece of metal or whatever. So that when you pluck the string, or either string, you're trying to effectively make, well, I was just trying to create some unusual sounds. And it does make some unusual sounds, but all you're really listening to is the interaction between one string wanting to vibrate at one fundamental frequency. You know, let's not worry about the harmonics at the moment, but and the other one wanting to vibrate at a different frequency, and the interaction between those two. Now, depending on where you link those two strings, that would alter the sound again, because a string vibrates at double the frequency if you halve its length. So if you take a string vibrating, then halfway along its length, you just put your finger on it very gently. It will create a doubled frequency, a harmonic, as you call it. Is it the first or second harmonic? I can't remember. It's not quite as intuitive as it sounds, but you stop the string just gently in the middle and it'll make a different tone. But that halfway point would be different for the two strings unless they happen to be exactly the same length, which isn't necessarily the case on a piano. On a guitar, it would be. Sorry, I'm thinking loud here a little bit. Well, I'm not sure where. I mean, coupled oscillators. Why has this come into the topic at all? It's a new thing to me, to be quite frank. I'm not going to pretend to know anything about coupled oscillators. I'm just trying to think of where this theory might come into play, how it might be useful. Because one oscillator is complicated enough for you anyway, and so two coupled together, you were unlikely, you being a dumbass, you were unlikely to think too hard about what's really going on, wave addition wise and all that stuff. Because it is a wave, isn't it, in a sense? You could draw it as a sinusoidal wave, I suppose, if it was a perfectly, you could map that as a nice sinusoidal wave. Then if the other one is forced to oscillate at a different frequency and different amplitude, which is what you were trying to show here, you could then show how those waves add some more accurately, where the two waves of different frequencies would sum. And depending on how you'd link them, where you'd link them, it's complicated, isn't it? It's I don't know. I'm trying to talk to you as if you were of sound mind enough to talk about this rationally. You just obviously want to impose your crappy theory on something far too complex for your brain to properly examine. So I think the only sensible thing you've said here is that let's see what physicist Michael says about it. That's as if you care what physicist Michael says about anything. Physicist Michael has already told you a few things that you've completely ignored, and according to Mindless Marbles, you've been so ignorant that you've then proposed, you've asked him a question that he's already answered, proving that you've not been listening all along. All you listen to is the sound of your own voice. Anyway, let's go back. Let's go back and have a look at your diagram again. Where's your diagram? Pardon me.
The two mass side, the two mass and the one.
Right, so according to you, well, what you've drawn here is more than just two oscillators, isn't it? You've complicated the matter further by having effectively three pivot points, as I can see. You've got the top of the string for each. Well, I don't know why I'm explaining. Everybody can see where the three pivot points are. So the two masses summed will have the whole structure summed will be oscillating, for one thing, from the very uppermost pivot point that we can see there. You've not actually showed it for real in your experiment. We're just having to guess how you constructed it for real. You haven't given us any measurements or anything. Not that we could do much with it unless we were absolutely dedicated to examining those particular measurements, working something out from them. But anyway, so you've got the total thing, the two strings and weights combined. They're going to oscillate, for one thing, off that uppermost, that top pivot point together, right? But then complicating matters is you've got each one then oscillating at a different frequency. That will want to go at a faster rate than the other one, because, well, depending on the string length, it's not the mass that's attached to it that would govern that, is it? It's, see, this is why it's complicated, because we've not seen the string lengths, we've not seen, and we don't have the masses verified, and we don't have the distances. We can't go off your crappy drawing here. We can't tell whether the upper suspension is terminated dead center on that crappy rod that you've drawn overextended. Is that meant to be central on the main suspension rod, the horizontal rod? God, this is a boring video. And my response to it is bound to be a boring video as a result, because it's all a bit unstraightforward. It's far from clear what's going on. You're just trying to impose your version of things on it without giving us the actual detail we would need to examine it closer. Not that I'm qualified to, I'm not pretending to be qualified to examine these things in any detail. Physicist Michael is, in all probability, qualified to. Mindless Marbles is, in all probability, qualified to. I'm not. I'm just an ordinary guy doing your ordinary experiments how you normally propose them, simple ones, so simple that you wouldn't do them. And I'm just saying, why keep coming up with more and more stupid ideas to avoid facing the music on the ones you've already done, also on the ones you've already proposed, when they don't go your way? Anyway, I'll shut up now because it's not worth examining any further. I'll have a little think about it, and I may come back to it after, but right now all I can see is a long-haired ex-hippie trying to cheat his way out of the hole he's dug for himself 2 or 3 years ago by claiming that kinetic energy isn't a real thing and that momentum defines energy. And we've proved over and over again it doesn't. So he's come up with something more complex than necessary and not documented properly, or not documented at all. So we can't even begin to examine it accurately. Even physicist Michael won't be able to examine it properly without giving him the details, accurate details of what you constructed here, filming it accurately so that he can see what's going on. Yeah, and that's not. Then we have the fact that the cylinders are rotating around bits random. That's another complication. So it's like you've got waves stacked on top of one another, but all with their own little different oscillation going on, and we have to sum those up, and then we'll be able to see. It's like examining harmonics, how harmonics add up in a musical instrument. It soon gets very, very complicated. You know, you might have to go into this Fourier analysis type of thing that beyond me. I'll tell you that. And if it's beyond you, and that's a dead cert, I would put money on that. Anyway, let's skip that for now then, because we're not going to get any more information out of you than that, are we? No, that's it. So that's all we get, is it? A view from above, a view from the end, and a statue. Thank you very much. That's what we all wanted to see, wasn't it? Your crappy statue. You couldn't be bothered to remove the clutter to make it so we could see properly. Of course you couldn't. That would be too much effort, wouldn't it? It's only science. Why bother? That's your attitude. See what crap people have written about it. Well done. Spring paradox, my ass. Oh, is it worth going over to? What's this crap? Oh, okay. Let's respond to this then. Now, well, we've got response to. Well, we've got two, haven't we? He's done half an hour on Michael Fowles and an hour response to mine on him. Which will play first? Oh, the joy. smoke in my eyes. Oh. Let's have a look at.
All right, time for another draftphysics.com video presentation. So I just found this Michael Falwell video made 20 hours ago, so I guess that was before my last video. Anyway, where I pointed out, again, that there's a bunch of 5-minute videos on the debatephysics.com website, 12 of them right at the top of the page, and I'm pleading with one of you people to play one of those videos and point out the errors in the video where the description of the physical facts is inaccurate. But you won't do that. Instead, he picks on this lever video. Now, these are 3 videos I made now that are just...
Well, surely he's free to pick on any video that you make. Why is this one exempt from being criticized? Huh? Why?
junk videos. I'm just showing the progress of me trying to do this exchange of momentum using a lever, and it's not very complicated beyond the fact that it's a little bit complicated in terms of you have to do this experiment right, or you have a bunch of places where you can lose a lot of energy and you can't do the transfer. But the idea is to duplicate, as I pointed out, the Newton's cradle, is to do something where you can actually see the transfer of the energy, something the Newton's cradle can't do on even different masses. It can't do the conversion, and a lever can theoretically. Well, anyway, it's just stupid. So he picks on a video that is acknowledged by me to be just for this one purpose. Anyway.
See video, so I thought goodbye. Gosh.
Yeah, so I complain that you don't play the right videos, and this is clearly another example of playing the wrong video.
Right, so you never respond to your video, so...
Yes, you never respond to the points made on the subjects where I'm actually describing the physics. Yes, you don't respond to those videos.
I thought goodbye. Gosh. So what's this one got? The Lever Experiment Volume 2.
I'll do what I can to interpret for you, because it's not going to be very comprehensible, and I probably do need that to speed up, so I do.
Alright, I'm going to finish the video presentation, so short video, just, volume 2.
Oh, volume 2. That's everybody all.
Fuck everybody? I don't know. Fuck you.
So, I did another version of it. I'll just play the video, I guess.
Whoa. Great quality video there.
Okay, so you didn't play the video ahead of time? so yeah, I'd like you to respond to videos that you've already played, at least, so you know what's in the video. That would be helpful, thank you. Now, I haven't played this piece of shit, because yes, it's just going to be a piece of shit mocking video. Okay.
That's awesome. Well, at least you can see the point of that.
Yeah, it's not for any big purpose, so yeah, I didn't think I need to refilm it, because the experiment's basically not working yet, so what's the big deal, fuckhead? Oh, fuck.
Pretty best of all filming.
Focus was on the camera, but other problems. So I shall fix that in the future. Still not nearly enough velocity being exchanged, energy, momentum.
Right,
so now he's going to make this crack.
Energy, momentum, which one? The water.
Which one? I mean, obviously, wait, I haven't paid any attention for 2 years? I'm arguing that 1/2 mv squared is a fable. It doesn't exist, and the only thing you could possibly call energy in the universe would be something called momentum, that is, masses moving velocities in space. So if there's a mass moving a velocity in space, the argument is it has fucking energy, fucking retard. I mean, I can't even believe you're going to sit there and not understand what the argument is. Every time I say energy, I really don't mean kinetic energy. Couldn't tell what he said.
It's better, but it's still not good enough. And part of the problem, I think, is the rails.
Right, part of the problem, I think, is more to do with nature than your rails.
All right, so he thinks nature is proving this 1/2. So nature shows this because all the time, we see it all the time, that it takes 5 times the fuel, 25 times the fuel to go 5 times as fast. And every time something's going 5 times faster, like 20 miles to 100 miles, obviously it does 25 times the damage. We see it all over the place in nature. No, we don't see it any place. Galileo didn't see it, Descartes didn't see it, Newton didn't see it. So what a big fat fucking pile of nothing is a physics argument. You're supposed to demonstrate why it's so believable and so convincing, that the evidence is so overwhelming for your silly fucking theory. Now, you can't link to any evidence because your science hasn't created any in 350 fucking years. You don't have any. You want to point to Brozo's little round things dropped in clay shit again? And you want me to explain again why that's bullshit? I mean, there is a 5-minute video explaining why that's a bullshit experiment.
Well, how about playing Brozo's experiment that was your experiment proposal? Why not play that one? Yeah. If that's what you want, let's do that. My channel. Where was it now? What did I call it? Well, it's on this one, isn't it? It's within this one, so I'll skip through the introduction. I'll just get to the actual experiment. So, and so this is where you said that I hadn't showed the method of launching. I had several times in this video. This is me weighing. Yeah, this is the launch method, which is your launch method. You said I didn't show it. I did. And wire that hooks over the pen. A quick release mechanism. Press that. Up it goes. That edge where it leaves the glass plate. That's it. So what's complicated about that? And what do you mean when you say I didn't show it? I didn't show the launch mechanism. I'm showing it here. I didn't have to stumble around long to find it within this video because I'll show it several times within the video, which means you've not watched the video or pretended to not watch. Wire that hooks over the pen. A quick release mechanism. Press that. Up it goes. That edge where it leaves the glass plate. That's in line where those rebounded tape. Put a little circle there. This is where the balls are landing on the first run of the one matter thing. It's landing it. Out. 7, I guess. Jumping to the end. 8. Well, these are the calculations. 1.4049, 1.405. Just call it 1.4. And this is what you said could only possibly come out at 2 times, and it's come out, and it could not possibly come out at 1.4 times. And it did come out at 1.4 times, which shows how much you know. You know fucking nothing. So if you're going to criticise us for looking at the wrong experiments, then we can criticise you for not looking at the right experiments, the very ones that you proposed. Gosh, it's 7:10 in the morning. I've got better things to be doing than listening to your garbage. Oh, I think I'll leave this for another time. Come back to it. You don't need to listen to me talking. Oh, that's just me having a little laugh. But I did actually show the launch mechanism. My picture is over the top of the launch mechanism here on the right hand side. But I've just showed it you anyway. But that's what I'm launching the ball for. Again, that was the shortest one, but only by about 3 millimeters. So you can see that the first one, there's a cluster. You can just about see there's a cluster where the first one, the 62 mass ball landed, and then 1.4 times further where the half mass landed. Doesn't go anywhere near 2 times faster, 2 times further that you claimed would happen. Yeah. Now why didn't that happen, Gary? Why didn't that happen? Keep it simple, stupid. What's the point of keep coming up with crappier experiments where there's more things to go wrong? There's so little to go wrong in this experiment. You've got a launch mechanism. The only things that can go wrong in this experiment is if the measuring tape is wrong, or you don't bother placing the ball correctly so that the elastic band isn't launching it using all its power. But I show clearly me placing the ball very carefully against the elastic band under tension, the same tension each time. You can see it's not rolling away from it because it would roll off the edge of that little glass table that I showed a moment ago. If it did, it's either in the right place or it's not. Then you release it with the quick release mechanism. It's fixed against the wall, so it can't, you don't get any recoil, or the recoil goes into the wall at a substantial mass, so that all the energy, 99% of the energy I suppose, is going towards launching the ball forward. And the half mass only goes 1.4 times further. Why does that happen? Why did your prediction not happen? It didn't happen because you are wrong. You were wrong. You still are wrong. You can come up with whatever other more complicated experiment you like, just to serve your purpose of giving a false impression that you've proved something. Do this experiment, your proposal, Gary. In case anybody's in any doubt, it was your experiment proposal. Let's listen to you proposing it.
Table. We're just going to take a 2 mass.
62 grams, yes. 62 grams, 62 grams.
And a 1 mass.
So this is the light ball. That weighs 31 grams, yes. 31 grams, exactly half, okay.
And do the experiment with those 2 different objects. Place one in and see how far it goes. Put 2 in, see how far it goes. And the idea would be is that the light one will fall, okay, twice as far.
Except that doesn't happen. It doesn't. This is a dead parrot. I mean, this is a dead theory, Gary.
This parrot is no more.
Gary just refuses to accept that it doesn't happen, though.
Well, he's pining for the fields.
Okay, it'll go twice as far away as the heavy one.
Doesn't happen.
Pining for the fields?
That doesn't happen.
This one will leave with twice the velocity.
What kind of talk is that?
That doesn't happen. He just refuses to accept that it doesn't happen.
Which means, that I can compress springs with heavy objects and shoot springs with light objects, and I can double my energy.
What kind of talk is that?
I don't know what to say to that.
So there is free energy.
If you say so, Gary.
So it will prove free energy.
I'm pretty sure it won't.
This experiment decides the question once and for all.
He says that, but he doesn't mean it. He's only saying that thinking the outcome is going to go his way. And when it doesn't go his way, suddenly he's going to forget that he said this would decide things once and for all. It only decides things once and for all, as far as he's concerned, if he gets the result he thinks he's going to get.
Well, I better replace it then.
But he's disappointed. He's not going to get those results. Ever. Only in his dreams.
I didn't want to work in a pet shop. I wanted to be a lumberjack.
It's just a fantasy.
It basically says if it doesn't land here and instead lands here.
Which is what happens. It does land about 1.4 times the distance away, not twice the distance away.
Well, here's where they're saying it would land. 1.4.
Yes, yes, yes. Correct.
So instead of 2x, it'll only go 1.4x.
Yes, yes, yes.
All right. I say that logically you can understand this can't be the truth.
But Gary, nobody cares what you think. We only care about what actually happens in the real world when we observe it, and you're about to observe it. But somehow you're going to carry on denying it, aren't you? Because you're incapable of accepting what you see, what is proven for you.
Ollie Barrett! There he moved. No, he didn't. That was you pushing the key.
By you, if you bother to do the experiments that you came up with. It was a good idea, but you should have done it as you specified, not your modified rubbish version designed to fail.
This bullshit.
So you are calling nature bullshit. You might as well be calling gravity bullshit, Gary. You might as well be calling the sun bullshit. It's just silly.
Can't possibly be the truth.
If we don't labour the point, I don't think Gary will ever get it. This is a dead parrot. I mean, this is a dead theory, Gary. Half the mass does not go 2 times further, 2 times faster. It goes, as science predicts, 1.4 times. Bob on. I'm sorry. Get used to it. I used your idea. There we go. I did it your way. There we go. That's the launch mechanism again. So well done. Well done for assisting in proving your own ideas completely and utterly wrong. This is a dead idea, Gary.
Hello, footage!
It's dead in the water.
Wakey, wakey!
Gary is like this shopkeeper guy in denial that the parrot is dead. Gary is in denial that his theory is dead. It was dead from day one. It was stillborn. Gary is a moron. Anybody with an honest, reasonably scientific outlook would have no real difficulty accepting that they'd made a mistake. Gary's not like that. He can't accept he's made a mistake. He has to stick to his guns. Pretend that he's been right all along. And the only way he can do that is by deception. Yeah, that's all he can do. Lie through his teeth. And luckily for him, there are a few stupid people out there who actually like him enough, for whatever stupid reason, to go along with his crap. So they'll back him up to the hilt. Yeah, it doesn't matter what crap he says. Even to the point of talking about pushing women downstairs if they get pregnant with his baby. They'll back him up on that. You know, even to the point of backing him up on his, claim that all child porn made up to this date should be legally available for paedophiles to masturbate to. Why would he have an interest in that? And they will even back him up on such extreme things as that. They will even back him up on his denial of the Holocaust. They will even back him up. I don't want to start widening the argument particularly into other things. I'm just trying to point out that his idiot fans will back him up no matter what shit he says. If he says it's okay to kill children up to the age of 3 or whatever it was, Steve Goddard, I've got the right name there, says on the Ethylism channel. That's a good channel worth watching. Just look up the Ethylism channel. Well, it's depressing because Gary is a depressing person. He's a depraved individual, an evil individual who does have a lot of very, very evil ideas, nonsensical ideas. He thinks he's some sort of Nazi guru. I don't know what. I mean, for God's sake, when somebody's supporting, the legalization of child porn, how evil does it get? The number of things he's said that are just shocking beyond belief. Nothing to do with science, but it all points to this individual and his supporters being not of sound mind, of having some other weird agenda, which is why they have no interest in a correct scientific outcome, an honest examination of what's really going on. That's how he gets away with proposing an experiment, then ditching it when it proves him wrong. A simple experiment that's hard to get wrong. How do you get this experiment that I've just replayed to you wrong? How is it possible to get it wrong? You can only get it wrong if you went to an extreme amount of trouble to make it come out wrong. Now that's why I'm arguing that we should all still be pressing Gary to do that experiment that he proposed a couple of years ago. I've just replayed him proposing the experiment, and somehow he's got off the hook of doing his own experiment proposal. It's time he did that one, not some other cockamamie piece of shit. Do the one that he proposed originally, that was supposedly going to prove things once and for all. He's made that statement. He's not backed down from that statement. All he's done is try to say that my version of doing it was sloppy. But he said himself, it's such a simple experiment, it's hard to get wrong. So what have I done wrong? I've done everything. I did it 3 times. And all 3 times it came out not even, how can I put it? The first 2 times weren't perfect. They were a little bit shy of the 1.4 measurement, but they were the right side, the 1.4 measurement. It didn't come out 1.6 or 1.7 and 1.8, 1.9. Didn't come anywhere near close to coming to this two times speed, 2 times velocity, 2 times distance travelled of the ball. It never ever supported him even 1%. It supported him 0%. He was 100% wrong. Not 99% wrong, 100% wrong. It never went faster in any instance. It never went further than 1.4, 1.41. Should be 1.412, shouldn't it? Yeah, 1.413, I can't remember now. But it never went further than that, ever. You would think if Gary was right, it would have at least gone 1.5 or 1.55, something like that. At least you would expect it to have at least crept over the 1.4 mark. You know what I mean? Just so it would at least give us hope that Gary was right. Give us hope that, you know, somehow it was trying to go faster than 1.4 times faster. But it didn't, did it? It didn't. And it never was going to, because he's wrong. wrong. See, now I'm labouring the point the same as he labours the point. The difference is I'm labouring the point over something that's correct. He's labouring the point over something that's incorrect. Oh, I wonder what is wrong with him. Perhaps, I suppose some people are evil. You know, some people are deluded. Some people, well, there's room in the world for all sorts, isn't there? But it's just hard to figure what's going on in his mind. I'm not a psychiatrist, a psychologist, and it would take one to come to a half decent conclusion as to what's going on in Gary's tiny mind and that of his followers. I suppose each of his followers must have their own little mind quirks that make them want to follow him. Don't get me wrong, in the early days of watching Gary, I thought he was a decent guy, because, you know, I trust people. I take people at face value. If they say something, I have no reason to distrust them usually. You know, he didn't give me any instant indication, just because he'd got long hair and was a bit different to what you expect a scientist to look like, or whatever. I didn't judge him on that. I just thought, well, this guy appears to be trying to make a case for an alternative view of scientific theory, and I'm not totally against that if they can back it up with some evidence. I'm not against that. There have been times when I've done an experiment and I've done it wrong, not realising I'm doing it wrong, and it's come out appearing to support Gary at first, like I didn't realise, because I was new to this. I didn't realise that when you drop a ball from twice as high as the first, I didn't realise that didn't mean it was going twice as fast. You have to lift it up 4 times higher for it to achieve twice the velocity. And so the first time I made that mistake, dropping lead balls into clay, or not lead balls at first, I was using copper rods similar to the ones we saw him using in his experiment here. But the first time I did that, I was eager to go online and say, look, it appears Gary's right. Because the indentation of the clay wasn't as I expected. But then I quickly realised, before I published my conclusion, I quickly realised that I'd made a very fundamental mistake. I'd just assumed that dropping from twice as high meant twice as fast. It doesn't. You've got to go 4 times higher. And once I did that, then it came out absolutely correct. But I admitted my mistake. I didn't try to hide it. I've never tried to pretend that I'm any kind of genius. I'm just an ordinary guy testing out Gary's claims whenever I can. And I can't always do that because some of his claims involve rockets in space, and you know, I don't have a rocket. What else is there to say about all this? Conclusion: Gary is just a prick. He's made it impossible for me to review Michael's response to him because, sorry, it's a correction. He's made it impossible really for me or anyone else to review his response to Michael's because he's sped up Michael. So now we can't hear what Michael's saying, and we can only hear what he's saying. And we have to speed up what he's saying because he's such a slow talker. Because, you know, there's something wrong with him. That means that I would have to quarter the speed and make his half-hour video 2 hours long, more or less, I suppose. Now, this is going to be a boring video at best, you know, even with the best of intentions. So he's made it impossible for us to respond to his response. Anyway, I'll have a think whether there's a way of doing it without. But it's not really worth the effort, is it? Because most sensible people know he's just a massive prick. Why are we wasting any effort whatsoever on a massive prick? A lying douchebag. Why are we wasting any effort on him whatsoever? I suppose because sometimes it's fun, and sometimes we want to persuade people who do have a reasonably honest outlook on these matters. We want them to not be persuaded by Gary's crappy arguments. We want them to have a bit more information than he provides. A lot more information than he provides. We care about people. Me, Mindless Marbles, Michael Fowle, Hero, Ian Gosling, etc., etc. We all care that there are people out there who might be a little bit vulnerable, a bit naive, a bit gullible. You know, when somebody like Gary is on the case, you know, trying to get them to drink the Kool-Aid, you know, so we're trying to just give those people a little bit of an opportunity to re-examine what garbage Gary Garbage is talking. Because, like I say, at first I swallowed what he was saying when he was making claims about things that I hadn't yet examined myself, because I was new to this science lark, I suppose, other than studying to be an electrician and some of my own work I'd done, you know, 30 years ago. I've never really taken anything more than a passing interest in science. I didn't want to get involved in it because I'm not qualified any more than he's qualified. And when you're not qualified on a subject, you shouldn't really get overly involved in it. You know, but the reason I did, to just explain how I got involved in all this, was I had an argument with somebody online. I was talking about something completely unrelated to science. I was just arguing about the non-existence of ghosts because I'd been forced to watch a film about ghosts, and so I'd watched this film online after I'd been forced to watch it at my sister's house. I'd gone online, found the film. I think it was called Whistle and I Will Come to Thee or something like that. A horrible, crappy 1960s black and white ghost film. I don't believe in ghosts whatsoever, but so I just made a comment or two, and somebody came back who did believe in ghosts and said it was a great film, and started telling me that I was the sort of person who the writer had made this film for, and I should take heed of the words of, oh, what's the fella's name now? Oh, I can't think of his name. So it's been such a long time since I've taken any interest in photons and all that garbage. It's not garbage, but anyway, he said, go and look at, he quoted William Shakespeare and the guy whose name escapes me, very well-known physicist from the past, on the subject of light and photons. Anyway, so I looked up that person, rediscovered the double slit experiment, and realised that, oh, I can do this experiment at home. And so I started doing the double slit experiment, and they said it was an impossible experiment to fathom out what was going on, without relying on quantum mechanics and all that quantum weirdness. And so I thought, well, although I hadn't intended to get involved in it at all, over a period of days, just by accident, I started coming up with my own little pet theories. You know how you do. You're not qualified on a subject, but you still like to think about it, don't you? That's what I was doing. Same as Gary's doing here, except he takes himself more seriously than most people who are just playing with an idea. He thinks his ideas are genius. I didn't think I was a genius. I just thought, well, let me try this idea, because you never know. There's always a possibility. It has happened occasionally where a completely unqualified person has proven all of science wrong on a subject, such as the case that David Attenborough explains in one of his programs from many years ago, where school children proved all the world's greatest geologists wrong when they claimed that you could not find fossils in certain rocks in a certain part of England, because the rocks were so old there would not be any fossils there, they claimed. But two school children, I believe, who are now quite famous, went out with their bucket and spade, so to speak, and found fossils there, proving that they didn't just accept what the scientists said. They went out and looked and found fossils, told their teacher, who just laughed at them. Apparently, they explained. Their teacher just laughed at them, so they then went out, and it took a lot of effort to find someone qualified to back them up, to go out and look at these fossils that they discovered where there shouldn't have been any. Charnwood Forest, that's it, Charnwood Forest. Look up that. But that's a rare case of unqualified people disproving established science. So I have no objection to someone saying that established science is wrong, so long as they have some proper evidence. Those school children did have some proper evidence, and therefore they were able to get qualified people to back them up. To this day, Charnia, the fossil that they discovered, is a famous fossil. I suppose it's in a museum or whatever. And they are famous and on record for having discovered it, despite all the world's geologists disagreeing with up to that point. I think it took quite a number of years for their claim to be accepted or whatever. It's a different story. But anyway, so I'm just saying that I'm not against people saying that established science is wrong, but show us your evidence. That those school kids had evidence. Gary doesn't have evidence. He has the exact opposite of evidence. He has denial. He relies on denial. He simply, when the evidence is presented to him, he just buries it. He starts name calling. He's been doing that for a decade or more. When he disagrees with somebody, he says, when that person dies, I hope you go and piss on his grave. You know, and he begs us to go and piss on that person's grave. Well, Day, when Day did die, about 3 years ago, I think, he changed his tune a little bit there, didn't he? Up to the point of his death, Gary had been begging us to go and piss on his grave. But of course, once he died, Gary started lying through his teeth, making out that Day would have agreed with him on this lever argument, would have agreed with him on all this kinetic energy supposedly being nonsense argument. Day would have never done any such thing. Day was a qualified engineer, a disciplined engineer, mathematician, qualified in these subjects. He was a nice guy, and he enjoyed arguing with Gary, and he thanked him at the end of his life. He thanked Gary for the I suppose he meant of having someone to argue with, which just shows what a good, gracious person he was. Very sad that he's gone and that it went that way. But for Gary to now invoke his name as if they were best of pals and that Day would have backed Gary up. The only thing Day did back Gary up on was a certain experiment he couldn't find ever having actually been done. A photon detector experiment of some sort. Fair enough. So he was honest enough to agree with Gary on that point, even though he disagreed with him on just about every other imaginable point. Gary's broken photon theory and all that. Anyway. Clicked on the wrong one there. I think. Where's Gary's crap? Where's Gary's crap? Blinded by the light. No, that's not it. Let's go see if we can see it. Oh, anyway, that must have been it. Surely that was it. Yeah, that was it, wasn't it? Oh, I'm not listening to any more of this garbage, though, I don't think. Just jump or a lot.
The truth. Because they ought to do these fucking simple experiments. They ought to show us that taking 4 times the fuel to go twice as fast and 9 times the fuel to go 3 times as fast. They ought to show us. They ought to, when they say the bullet has 2,000 joules of energy.
I did an experiment showing you it takes more fuel to go 2 times as fast, 3 times as fast. I showed you. I did it. You don't remember the reels going round and round? And how much energy it took, electrical energy. That was because Cato the Wise, I think, or someone, proposed looking at some data from Tesla But by the time you got to it, Tesla had not shown that page anymore. You couldn't find it. So I thought, well, you agreed that it should be the same for electric motors as with petrol engines or whatever. I don't know. I don't know enough about petrol engines to really comment, but I created my own experiment driving DC electric motors with doubling the voltage, then doubling the voltage again, then doubling it again. Each time measuring the current and the voltage, doing the best wattage power calculation I could under the circumstances. A watt-hour meter would have been better. A proper dedicated power meter would have been better. But I didn't have one. I'm not going to spend good money on one for an experiment that you are not going to watch anyway. You're going to deny anyway. But I did show absolutely clearly that doubling the voltage did not make the thing go twice as fast. In order to make the reels go twice as fast, I had to put in even more than 4 times the energy to get them to go twice as fast. But what you fail to take into account is that energy is then stored in that rotating mass. So getting it up to that speed takes theoretically 4 times the energy, in reality more. And someone else has also pointed out that certain airplanes take a lot more than 4 times the energy to go twice as fast. I suppose air drag comes into play there, though, doesn't it? So that complicates matters. This is why it's important that if you have a simpler experiment to test your theory out on, which you do have, you propose a simpler experiment. This is why you should, if at all possible, go for the simplest experiment, test it as far as you possibly can. Make the effort to test your own simple experiment. Don't overcomplicate it, because when you overcomplicate it, there are too many things to go wrong, and it doesn't take that much really to go wrong for you to come to a wrong conclusion. I could have showed you that in the early days of all this nonsense when I did the lever experiment, back in the day when you denied a lever could do this, going back about nearly 3 years ago. I did a lever experiment launching a 1 mass and a half mass, those roll of coins, into the springs to show that the half mass launched at twice the speed by being placed at the correct place on the lever that you denied was a lever. You said was just a stick, me pushing it, because I didn't show you a total view. I just assumed that you had the intelligence to recognize it was a lever. Everybody else could recognize it was a lever. And you denied it was possible to use a lever for this purpose, to make one object go twice the speed of the other. Anyway, I showed that the half mass going at twice the speed did compress the spring more than the other one. You said they should compress the spring equally, and it didn't. That was stage 1. But back then, I could have cheated that experiment, because I initially made a mistake of using a lever that was too flexible. And like Physics Michael pointed out a few weeks ago, that when the lever is too flexible, you're effectively storing energy in that lever because it bends. It's like bending a bow and arrow. You're storing energy. It has potential energy in it. It's a spring in its own right. You're effectively using a spring to launch the objects. So that's why my experiment said right across the middle in big bold letters, new bar, because the first bar I used was a lever that was too flexible. It was like a picture frame material, which is kind of a stiff plastic, really. And so I could have cheated the experiment back then. That little tiny difference in using the wrong material, which was too flexible, instead of a steel lever, meant that tiny difference meant that the half mass was going much faster than it should have gone. and therefore it compressed the spring much more than it should have done. Which is why I didn't show that, because that would have been unfair to people who wanted to know the truth. It would have been unfair on you, but it would have been unfair on everyone. But if I'd wanted to be unfair on you, if I'd just wanted to win the argument by, cheating, really, it was an accident. That's why I didn't show it, because I'm not going to use an experiment where I know I've accidentally got an impressive result that isn't valid. I didn't want to do that. I only wanted to show an experiment that was valid, and that's why I replaced the lever with a steel one which couldn't bend, and I included a lever stop so that even less chance of it bending. So then the experiment was as good as it could be at that stage. It was the early days. No one had bothered to do your experiment proposals at that point in time, going back almost 3 years ago, around about Christmas time. And so I was getting tired of you making these bizarre, outrageous claims that kinetic energy theory was wrong. So I made the effort to do the experiment. That was when you vanished for a week, wasn't it? Claiming that your internet had gone down for an entire week, and I looked on your internet service provider's website, who published data on outage, and there was no such outage published anywhere in America for a week. There was only 1 or 2 places that had been out for a day or something like that. So I think you'd gone away to cry into your hanky, to clutch your teddy bear or whatever it is you do. And you eventually came back pretending that you'd never seen the experiment before, when really, I think you had. I think you'd spent a week crying into your hanky, masturbating, whatever it is you do to pass your time, and then come back having invented a load of pathetic excuses why my experiment was supposedly incorrect. And people fell for it. I didn't. I'm not that fucking gullible. I don't believe a word you say, because I think you are such a lousy piece of shit. I don't put anything past you. Anyone who goes around supporting child porn and denying the Holocaust and talking about it being okay to shoot babies through the back of the head, things like that. How am I supposed to respect a person like that? Anyway, I've talked for quite a while now. This is going to be a boring video at the best of times. So 1 hour and 23 minutes. I suppose I should be listening to you criticise me as well, but what's the point? Steve Shite. You can't even spell shite.
Audio settings, I have to prepare myself for this. Somewhere around there might be enough of him anyway.
Yeah. 58 minutes. 58 minutes of shite. No comments.
So far, so bad. Well, actually, this is the good part. He's not talking.
Hello. I don't really want to watch this, but
Then why are you doing this? Why the fuck are you people doing this? I mean, I make videos deliberately for the purpose of them being responded to, you explaining the video, explaining what's wrong with the video. And then, instead of those, you find the most disconnected possible video, in the sense that these videos are just an explanation of me trying to work out how to do an experiment. They're not the experiment. They're just trials. And I'm just being honest and just showing the process of evolving the experiment. And you're finding something about that to critique? You fucking petty pieces of shit. I mean, I beg you to draw a lever for 2 years, and this is what you respond to. I mean, amazing. Fuck.
You want me to draw a lever? I'll draw you a lever. Have I got a pen? I'll draw you a lever, Gary. pivot point, lever. Push on that end, and the other end will go up. That's a lever. Okay, you asked for it. Now you've got it. Okay. I showed you a lever 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and you thought it was a stick being pushed in the middle. You thought I was cherry picking the results, and that a lever couldn't possibly do what. Well, I just told you all that.
So good. Here we go.
Fell asleep.
Having to listen to this question. Here we go then.
Alright, time for another draft science on YouTube. Draft physics. Well done. So, wait, is this a trial video? You could say, well, I'm just trying out, see if I can actually play a video, blah, 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 blah. .com, debate physics stuff.
What's with all this? That's a new thing, isn't it?
Oh, okay. Maybe there really isn't any point, right? Yeah, this is, I'll just title this, I guess, it's another junkie Steven shit video. Oh, god damn.
Like he's doing a Cliff Richard impersonation. Look at it.
You're doing the Mr. Hanky impersonation. You can't just be more of just a stupid piece of shit. A talking piece of shit. Anyway, trying to make a so you can't hear it, right? I can't, yeah. So, yeah, well done, video. Let me speed this up. This is going to be interminable. Oh, God. I just hate this planet of assholes.
Trying to make a lever experiment. It's okay, make a lever. Okay, not a bit.
Well, in that case, I'm going to have to slow you down then.
The difficult part is the fact is you have to use the energy that goes in to make the lever work. So it kind of fucks the experiment because part of the thing with the whole point you're trying to do is convert all of the energy, and it's really hard to convert all the energy when you have to use some of it to run the experiment. Fuckhead. So I'll play a video.
Oh, it's down here, that's why. It's down back down there.
Of just the first video. Tried a couple of different ways of doing it. Oh, so he's doing the first one, right? This was 21 hours ago, so the second one had already been made. And now there's a third one. Doing it like a big, heavy, hard steel bar, and too heavy. Okay, so, but I was thinking that maybe if I suspended it, in the air, suspended it. Yeah.
Why is everything so funny? Suspend it, yeah. So I'm just gonna stick it.
Because it's kind of a funny, it's like levitating it or something. So it's, So yeah, to me it was funny. Yeah. Levitating lever. Yeah, okay, it's a little bit funny.
What's happening? Monitor, so we have to hold.
Hilarious. We all find levitating levers funny, don't we? I'm surprised more comedians don't use that in their stand-up comedy. The subject of levitating levers.
Hold it friggin' side. I'm gonna roll a fag. I'm supposed to be just.
Oh, could you just drop dead, please?
I'm joking, not any intention, but I'm having some difficulty lately. So.
I'm glad I can't hear him.
What doesn't help that I've run out of tobacco. I'm just relying on re-rolling a few. I didn't finish smoking before. I want to say I'm sick of smoking, but in a way I'm not. Kind of. Anyway, this is relevant to the subject. Just let me get it over and done with.
That was clever. He turned up the volume on the video, and then he got further away from the webcam, so now his volume's way down. Yep. Brozo. I make a video. I have to choose something. So don't be something.
I want to be able to concentrate on what he's saying instead of being distracted by wanting to see. He doesn't look mental there at all, does he? With his eyes properly now. Every time you stop a video of Gary's, it always comes out him looking like a nut job.
Whatever. Look who's talking. I mean, he has cleaned up a little, right? Doing his little hair slicky thing and, hiding his face. So, it is kind of funny. He bought himself a new shit jacket.
It's about 10 years old, actually. It's just a crappy old jacket I picked up Got a house full of jackets. Bought himself a new jacket. It's got stains on, for God's sake. You can see it. It's not a fucking new jacket at all. Wear what I want to wear. Wear a yellow jacket or what the fuck I want. Irrelevant.
Is that kind of, when you don't freeze framing, still comes out looking like a nut joke.
What the fuck is this? This is spill taking hour. What the hell is going on? What is the point of this? I mean, 17 minutes of this? I have to speed it up even more. Oh, fuck.
Conclusion? Rolling around. Anyway, why is it taking you 2 years to do this experiment?
Oh, look, he's making himself a cigarette. Isn't that cute?
Important.
I did say. I said I'm rolling a fag. I explained quite clearly. That shows how little attention you pay to anything anyone says.
Why?
Why? Because it proves there's no 1/2 mv squared. The fact that levers convert momentums and they conserve momentum means there can't be any 1/2 mv squared theory, because levers would create free energy. That's why. Idiot.
Except that doesn't
It's
happen.
an important truth, really.
All subjects of fact about our existence are important to me. I think it's really important to exist in reality, not to exist in some moronic fable, asshole. Now, you don't care because you're sort of a nihilist, self-centered retard, okay, who wants to, whatever, lick babies or something. So you don't identify, okay, with, things I think are important. That's understandable because you're a deviant, fucking, retarded, fucking piece of shit. So of course we don't agree. Somehow this is important enough for him to do this shit. Right? So somehow
No, all that's happened was that Michael Fowle mentioned you'd made this new experiment. So I thought, if Gary's actually made the effort to do a new experiment, let's listen. Because it's so unusual for you to do an experiment at all, seeing as I've been waiting about over a year, might be 2 years, for you to do the one that you proposed. The one I've just already mentioned here. This one here. Where is it gone again? Oh. That one. The experiment you proposed 2 years ago. Where's it? Give me a sec. I'm still waiting for you to do this one that you proposed.
is that the light one will fall.
I won't repeat it anymore, but you get the gist. I'm still waiting for you to do that one, the simple experiment that you said you couldn't be bothered doing. So someone else was going to have to do it. I did it 3 times, showed you were wrong, didn't even 1%, didn't even 0.1% go in your favour. It was 100% in favour of kinetic energy theory being correct. Now, the only reason I bothered to listen to your experiment that Michael Fowle pointed me to, am I on the right one? Yeah. The only reason I bothered to listen to this experiment was because it's so unusual for you to do an experiment. So I thought, well, while I'm watching it, I might as well record my instant response to it. I wasn't intending to make a video. I thought, well, just in case it's worth uploading. I didn't really think it was worth uploading, but, well, I might as well just show you my instant response, my reaction to whatever garbage you presented, because obviously it was going to be garbage because you were making it. It wasn't a planned video. It was just an honest response. Me sitting there rolling a fag, scratching my head or whatever. Just like this now. You waste enough of our time with your hour-long videos, straw manning the argument and talking a load of irrelevant shite, so why not me just do the same to you? Waste some of your time. Anyway, let's carry on.
An unimportant subject is important enough for him to make a video trying to, in some way, counter my unimportant statements about the unimportant subject. Amazing. But he won't do it to the videos I specifically point to and say, these are the videos I want you to refute. Mock these videos. Don't mock this video. Mock those videos.
Well, I'm asking you to mock. Where is it again? This video. Play the actual part where you claim that I didn't show the launch method. Find it again. Mock this video where you claim I didn't show this. Well, I obviously did, because it's here now. It's been shown to you several times, the launch method. Your launch method. So you respond to this. The ball is in your court, Gary, not mine.
So anyway, you hit the wrong button, which is doable with YouTube, right? They have this stupid go to the next video button for no goddamn good reason. Why the fuck do I want to go to the next random piece of shit video? Why would I want such a fucking idiotic button?
Alright, time for another Draft Science on YouTube. Draftphysics.com, datephysics.com. Video presentation. Anyway, I'm trying to make a lever experiment. So I'll play a video of just the first video. Tried a couple of different ways of doing it, like a big, heavy, hard steel bar, and too heavy. Okay, so but I was thinking that maybe if I suspended it, in the air, suspended it, and then had it, on a floating fulcrum, this is stiff, but
Yeah, well, you've played it 3 times now.
float.
Twice.
That maybe this would work. It sounded really nice. So when the thing hits it, you can hear it. But yeah, not the velocity out of it. So anyway, this is just a proof of concept kind of video, so I'll just let it run. And it needs a lot of work right there. The first roll wasn't much of a success. Anyway, so it's just a pencil, a little nick I found works pretty good as a fulcrum. So we just put in, what did I do with a piece of metal here? You just put a little nick in there.
Hold on. Where's your quick release mechanism, Patrick?
Again, you point out how this is just a proof of concept, just working on the experiment. This isn't the final product. This isn't anything to debunk. I'm not making any proof or statements based on this.
You are.
And what do? This nonsense. I mean, amazing. So it would be better if I didn't make any videos showing the process. That's the argument, right? So they're basically saying, no, don't make any videos honestly showing.
Well, if we showed our videos of us developing an experiment, then you would criticize us. We make the effort to improve the experiment as far as we can at that point in time, and we improve it further again. And it doesn't matter how perfect our experiments come out, you still criticize them with absolute bullshit, claiming, I've not shown you this. You just lie that we've not shown you the evidence, not shown you the launch method, when here it is.
A quick release mechanism.
Gary's own quick release mechanism. So, get your own house in order, Gary.
Process of trying to make the lever work. No, we don't want to see that. That's unimportant crap. We'll mock that if you put that online. But they won't go to the videos I specifically point to and say, refute this. Those videos they won't play. But this...
You make a video every day, 365 days a year practically, sometimes 2, sometimes even 3, of such ridiculous length that we have to sacrifice precious hours of our day to keep up with the number. Finding the videos that you consider important is pretty difficult because you keep saying, oh, I've got a list of important experiments that you want us to critique. I can't honestly remember whether we have or we haven't critiqued any particular ones. I'm sure we have critiqued some of them. But you have that many videos to sift through. It's fucking hard work sifting through your videos, Gary. You've got that many. You've made it like looking for a needle in a haystack. Plus, they aren't even on the same fucking place. They're on YouTube. They're on your own stupid wanky website, which takes a heck of a lot to get going. It's a hopeless place to put your videos. Why not just stick to YouTube? You were supposedly boycotting YouTube, and that was the only reason you started putting them on your stupid website and then occasionally intermingled with them. 1 minute they'd be on your website, then they'd be on YouTube, then they're on your website again. So you'd have us hunting all over the fucking place to find specific videos. And it's an absolute pain in the arse. And frankly, you aren't worth that effort. Do you not understand that? You aren't worth the amount of effort that you think that we should put in. You're not this world's greatest theoretical physicist or anything else. You're just a fucking dickhead. And occasionally, I like to pop in and just see what you're up to these days. And this is what you're up to these days. This is the culmination of your fucking efforts. You claim it's just a proof of concept, a first trial. Okay, I'll give you that much. It's a first trial. But what's the point of fucking showing us until it's ready to go? What's the point in showing us something that isn't ready to demonstrate? You've not got any means of measuring the velocities of these things. It's so undisciplined, it's ridiculous. It's wasting our time. It's wasting our time even showing it to us.
This video, this trial balloon, if you want to call it something, this they'll critique. I mean, amazing, petty, weaselly behavior. What assholes are on this planet?
A little bit.
I'm looking at one right now.
Maybe relying on a nail that so you like the values when you.
Of course, there was a nail for the nick to fit into. Yes, there is.
Actual bearing.
Not on about your experiment, you moron. Listen, I was on about Toady UK, your #1 ace supporter, giving you some credibility apparently. I was on about him lying that I'd used the nail in an experiment where I hadn't used the nail, I'd used a proper bearing. And the stupid bastard lied, the lying, deceitful cunt lied that I'd used a nail which was sticky and it wouldn't rotate. And I'm just pointing out here that, well, or later on in this video, that your pencil is far worse than that.
You could use a pencil.
It's called a fulcrum, okay? They do draw it as a triangle sometimes, you know. It's not a bearing, it's just a pivot point. All you want is a pivot point.
And it has to be free to rotate. Properly free to rotate, as best as you can manage. We're not asking you to use something that costs $500, that kind of bearing. I mean, there are some things out there, gas-filled bearings, whatever they're called. We're not asking you to go to those lengths, just something better than whatever it is you're using here. You didn't show us, you just told us something about a nick in it, and then later you mentioned a nail and resting on some plastic and that it was liquid. That's a funny expression. It wasn't really liquid, was it? Because you pushed the pencil and it came to a dead halt, you know, before it had even made a quarter turn, so you couldn't call that liquid. So just pointing that out.
To be accurate, and chop up from the end, you know, so that it's equal what it is, what it's length.
Who cares? Again, it doesn't matter.
Well, it does, because the lever has mass, and you want it to be you want the mass to be equally distributed along its length. For it to not be weighted more one side than the other.
This has nothing to do with anything. It's such a minor, minuscule detail.
Well, you were the one who said that minor, minuscule details matter. So prove it. Stop being a hypocrite. Live by your own rules. Don't preach to us that we've not made the efforts to make things accurate when you don't make any effort to make things accurate.
In terms of whether or not you can convert the momentum.
How hard would it be to sharpen both ends of the pencil, as one person suggested, or just chop off the pointy end so it was equal along its entire length? It's a simple matter. Then you could measure to the exact middle point, have some sort of reasonable bearing fixed there so it rotated, so if you tapped it, it would go round and round and round freely, like all our experiments did, where you then claimed that the friction was slowing it down and somehow being unfair to your claim that NV is a definition of energy.
A little here, a little there, all of that won't make any difference to the...
Yes, it will. Or it might. How do you know if you don't make the effort? Why have that element of doubt? It's such an easy task to do, and you're such a bone-idle bastard. Or maybe you didn't want to sacrifice an expensive pencil by chopping the end off, forgetting that there are such things as pencil sharpeners and you could always sharpen it again when you wanted to reuse it for doing your crayon drawings.
Concept.
Okay.
See that? And that's it against the nail. That's all you really need. This one.
So, this is how unfussy you are about an experiment. Okay, so just prove the concept, but the concept is worthless if you're not at least trying to do a decent experiment. You're just doing it as rough as you can. What?
No, yeah, doing it as simple as I can. That's right. As uncomplicated, as few things.
No. You've already told us about a very simple experiment. This one, I'm not going to show it again. You've already showed us the simplest experiment possible that would prove matters once and for all, settle matters once and for all. And you haven't done that experiment after a year or two of claiming that that was the experiment that was going to prove things once and for all. And you haven't done it! Why haven't you done it, Gary? Why haven't you done it? Because you know you were wrong. That's why you haven't done it. You're never going to do it, are you? Because you know there's no possible way you can make it work the way you've said it would work. Please do it. I would pay good money to see you do it just for the entertainment value of seeing you look a fucking idiot and doing an experiment that's already been done proving you wrong. And you somehow trying to make nature behave different than it will do, always will do, because that's what nature does. Nature does what nature does. It doesn't do what Gary wants it to do. So please do that experiment. How much money do you want? I don't have enough money to pay you, really, but if I did, I'm surprised somebody else hasn't done it, actually, thinking about it, because it was such a simple experiment. You were right. It was going to settle matters once and for all. I do wish somebody else had done it as well, actually. I'm not sure why they haven't. My first incarnation of the experiment, I deliberately used a big ballpoint pen, a retractable pen, because I thought, well, that's a device that anyone can buy around the world. It's a standard thing, so we would all be using the same one. But you disputed me using that. You disputed me using, coins as the objects to launch, even though you'd said we could use any object, we could use any spring-loaded mechanism. And I did that, and you objected when I actually followed your rules. You changed the rules, you moved the goalposts, and I then, by the third incarnation of the experiment, I followed your rules to the letter. I used spherical objects, weighed 62 grams, 31 grams for the half mass, and I used your quick release elastic band method. You've already shown that you have a quick release method, so why aren't you using it here? It isn't that hard to construct an elastic band. You've made the effort once, why not use it again? We made the effort, why don't you? When are you going to do that experiment, Gary? And show us what you claimed, that it will go 2 times further, the half mass, launched by the same spring-loaded mechanism. When are you going to do that experiment? I know, you're never going to do it. Never, ever, ever. Because you know you're wrong. That's why you come up with other experiments instead. More complicated experiments. Maybe not that much more complicated, but more complicated nevertheless. More things to go wrong. Bits of your track falling off halfway through you doing it. You having to release them by hand and them not even staying on the track, just flopping off and just going in the wrong direction. The ball not even being in contact with the pencil, the launch ball. The pencil not even being free to rotate. It's such an undisciplined piece of crap. It's well deserved. It's well deserving of having the piss taken out of it. Even as a proof of concept, it isn't worth our time of day, other than as a piece of entertainment, giving us all a good laugh at what a fucking idiot you are. Now go away, go back to the drawing board, get 2 objects, launch them off the edge of a table using any spring-loaded mechanism as you originally dictated. Show us it going 2 times faster, or anywhere more than, just anything more than 1.4 times faster further. It won't happen because you're wrong. It will not happen because you're wrong, man. That's why I would pay good money to see that happen if I had good money to spare on that. Although I wouldn't want it to go to you. I'd give it to charity.
Things to fuck with it, keep it simple, stupid. Yes, exactly.
Hey,
Because it can rotate without rubbing on anything. It works pretty good. I found, I think, it works pretty good. I mean, I haven't got brilliant results yet. So I would argue that in some cases I'm getting more than 50%. Okay, so
well, how are you measuring it? You get more pictures than what?
I can see it, you stupid fuck. I can see how fast it goes from here to here. Oh, one frame it goes this far, 1 frame it goes that far.
You've not showed us that. Considering this is Flintstone vision that you're using, how can we rely on it anyway? Why not just go out and buy a decent camera? Michael Fowle made the effort, I've made the effort, other people have made the effort, this part's made the effort. We've all made the effort to find, high-speed cameras of one sort or another. You haven't. You've invested all your money in cameras to go out filming. God knows what you use to go out filming with them. You showed us an array of cameras that you've got for outdoor filming, none of them useful for scientific purposes as far as we can determine.
Yeah, I can see that, fuckhead.
How are you measuring this? This is so unscientific, it's ridiculous. You've got no...
Oh, it's ridiculous. It's so stupid. Again, what is your point? You can't see. I have little crap taped together. I have a pencil to just see if this is a possible way of demonstrating the effect of the lever on this little micro scale to see if it's doable. That's all this is for. Oh, amazing.
You need to measure what you're talking about. No, let's see.
to get 100. Yeah, I'm getting more than 50, so at least that's something. And there's no indication of any reflexes, so there's no bouncing happening. But clearly I'm losing way too much. But that's okay. That's just the first try. So this is just a one mass coming in and a one mass coming out. I'm just going to try to get that to be as efficient as possible. So I will.
So you're ignoring what physicist Michael told you about energy being lost to the fulcrum?
No, I'm arguing that he has no right to say 50% of the energy is always lost or some kind of nonsense like that. I'm arguing that you could probably get to 90% efficiency, and that's all I need to do what I have to do. I probably just need 80%, but I'm just saying, yes, it'd be better to have 90% efficiency.
But you're not going to achieve it with this, are you? If he can't achieve it using high quality equipment, what's the point of you using far lower quality equipment and expecting us to accept that as a proof of concept, this will disprove him? For it to disprove him, Gary, you would have to do a better experiment than him, not a worse one. Do you not understand? What does this contribute to the argument? All it shows us is that you are a bone-idle, tight-fisted cunt.
So if I can just lose, if I only sacrifice 10% of the energy to the movement of the lever, big win. So that's what I have.
But you've got no means of measuring. You've got no means of measuring that. And don't say frame rates because you're filming it in Flintstone vision.
You moron. Oh, God, you're stupid.
Maybe recollect him saying this.
I couldn't give a fuck what he says. Frankly, okay, what a physicist says. I mean, they've had 300 years of believing in a fable for which they have zero evidence.
Yes, it's quite evident that you don't care what physicists say. You only care what you think in your tiny pea-brained head.
They believe you can have any amount of momentum you want to come out of a spring. They believe that, it takes through 9 times the fuel to go through.
No, it's not belief. Belief isn't what scientists rely on. It's you who believes things, Gary. Belief has nothing to do with it, Gary. Evidence has everything to do with it. It wouldn't matter if I believed in this 1.41 thing, as you call it, saying that me and Piro invented it. I wish. It doesn't matter if we believed that, if we then did your experiment and it came out 1.6 or 1.5, 1.7, or, as you predicted, 2 times faster, 2 times further. But that didn't happen. If it did happen, then my belief, I didn't have a belief, but if that did happen, then my belief would be worthless. I would have to look at the situation again and think, Gary's got a point. And it doesn't matter whether I despise you for being, supporting child porn and Holocaust denial and all that crap and pushing women downstairs if they get pregnant by it. All that would be irrelevant to me because you had been proven right then, or there would be strong evidence to suggest you were right if that happened, but that didn't happen. Do you not understand, man? That didn't happen. And all I'm asking of you is to stop being a hypocrite and do your own experiment, the one that you proposed, to show us that happening. Something better than 1.41. Make the half mass accurately weighed on decent scales. It's only cost 10 quid. I'm sure you can get them in America, probably even cheaper. Good digital scales don't have to be lab quality. They just have to be able to weigh things, in milligrams or whatever. Sorry, not milligrams, grams. They don't have to be. It's not like weighing out your drugs or whatever. You just have to be able to weigh them, within a reasonably good margin of error, not kitchen scales that you picked out of a skip or whatever you said you got them from. I don't know where you got them from, but they look like you got them out of a skip. You probably didn't. Maybe you got them, picked them from upstairs from whoever it is you lodge with. By the way, I have no fucking interest in who you live with. I have no fucking interest in your family, by the way. You keep telling us things about your family that I have no fucking interest in, and then you throw it back at us saying that we go around outing your talking about, what's the word? We're not interested in your fucking family situation. I'm not interested in your siblings. I'm not interested in your mum, your dad. I've no disrespect to them, but I've no interest in that. I've no interest in where you fucking live. I have no fucking interest in any of your personal shit whatsoever. All I'm interested in, really, is what you claim, because I think it's bullshit. I think you're a lying cunt. And I'm just anxious to see you show us just one of your claims being right. If you ever showed us that, I would support you on that. I would go against anyone who denied it. I would be on your side for that particular thing if you showed us something, one of your claims being proven right. With a simple experiment that can't go wrong, doesn't have bits of wire falling off left, right, and centre. So show us a good piece of evidence, Gary. That's all I'm asking of you. It's not asking too much.
3 times as fast. They believe nonsense, okay? So why the
Belief has got nothing to do with it.
fuck would I think that's an authority on anything? I'm not going to follow his instructions, even walk into the bathroom, for frankly. I don't think they have the right
Then why are you talking to him? Why do you want the publicity that he offers by taking you on? Why are you polite to his face? Why didn't you just be honest and say to him in your live stream, talking to him, his live stream talking to you, why don't you just be honest and say, hello, I don't believe a damn word you say. I think you talk shite. Why don't you just be honest and say, and the conversation would probably soon end if you, but no, you are slicking, don't you? You pretend that, you have great, respect for one another. You don't have respect for anyone.
answers about how reality fucking goddamn works. Neither do you, fucknut. Your Lenz's law kind of photon. Photons are magnetic. Yeah, no, not quite, fuckhead.
What did he say 30? I think it's lots of something anyway, but not like thinking one mass into one mass and one takes the other one takes up the velocity of the first mass. Is it?
That's the idea, yeah, that's exactly what it could be. That's the whole point. That if you can reduce the losses to the tiny bits of lever movement, that's the ideal.
Well, yes, I can understand why you would think that, except that I'm more likely to trust physicist Michael in his experiments and claims about the theory. I'm more likely to trust an educated person than a dumbass who just goes around guessing. You. That's why I accept that what seems logical to me, what you just said, seems logical to me. I didn't realise that energy was going to be lost to the fulcrum, to the Earth. I just thought it was a very minuscule amount. I didn't realise it was a substantial amount, and that what you were claiming is actually impossible. But because physicist Michael is an educated man and has explained in some detail that a lot of it goes over my head, I'm more likely to trust him than trust you and your wild guesses and claims, unproven claims, that you are unwilling to even try to prove. He's an honourable man. He comes across as an honourable man. He doesn't go around saying stupid, horrible things, and you do.
Fuckhead.
According to the theory that what physicist Michael said,
Do something better than a pencil. Try some things and see if I can get something.
So again, he's arguing somebody else's theory that he doesn't even understand and that he can't in any way defend. He doesn't understand any of it. He's just arguing from authority. Michael says so.
Well, I suppose to a degree, yes, because he's got a degree. He's got more than a degree. And it's common sense to trust someone who is educated versus someone who is uneducated. Because I'm uneducated at that level, I'm educated up to a point, but not anything like he is. It's common sense to defer to that person's knowledge until you have evidence to the contrary, and you haven't provided evidence to the contrary.
Well, don't you believe in the believers?
Why do you have to resort to impersonating me like that? Because you've been impersonating me like this from not day one exactly, but the day you found me having a friendly chat with Hyfladay about Asperger's syndrome. Just because me and Hyfladay both had Asperger's syndrome and both happened to be electricians, I posted a friendly comment to him. Not on your channel, we weren't even discussing you. It was just about those two subjects. He posted a little puzzle, and I solved his puzzle, or I thought I did, and I just wanted to say, I think I've solved your puzzle, is this the correct answer, or whatever. And then I got on to say, by the way, I have Asperger's syndrome too, talked a little bit about that. And you took that opportunity to mock me doing all this, like I talk like that, and I don't talk like that, do I? I'm talking reasonably well for a man with no teeth. I talk better than you, and you do have a full complement of teeth. Teeth are wasted on you. Fucking head is wasted on you.
I mean, don't you believe in the believers and the believers and the believers? I mean, don't you?
It's not belief. Scientists tend to rely on evidence. They don't just say, I believe that dropping something from 2 times higher will make it go twice as fast. They measure it and reach the conclusion that they were wrong. If they did believe that, they measure it, and eventually it becomes the established knowledge that you've got to lift it 4 times higher for it to go twice as fast, twice the velocity.
Follow just believing because other people believe and you should believe because we're
I don't believe things. There's a lot of things I don't believe. I don't believe you. How's that?
all believers? Hmm?
Is this all you've got?
80% or something better than that if possible.
How do we know? Because it's so foolish. How do we know that those tracks that you just...
You don't need to. I'm just saying, you can't see it for yourself. I'm just saying, how do you know? You can't tell the difference between something that's going half as fast as something else. I can tell.
Well, there's a lot of things you can't tell. You couldn't even recognize a train at the beginning of this video. At the beginning of this video, I show a train.
If it weighs half as much, it'll go twice as fast.
That's obviously a fucking train. You thought it was a buzz. That's how good your ability to use your eyes as a means of judging things is. You're half blind. You can't even read common words in front of you without squinting like that and getting them still getting them wrong.
I can see the difference. That looks.
It's a tiny image. It's a fuzzy image. It's scrolling up and down. Well, there's interference on it anyway. Sorry, there's interference on the image. You've not showed us a close-up view. You've not used any means of measuring how far apart that. You've not used any disciplined way of verifying that the tracks are parallel. You've not showed us that the floor is level. You've not used a spirit level, something as basic as that. So how do we know it's not rolling downhill or uphill? Why did that ball want to roll backwards off the pencil a bit later in the video, I think? Because it's an undisciplined experiment.
Fast, that looks slow. I can do that.
back into position because it came off. How do we know that they're parallel? Because if they're not parallel, you can either have the effect of gravity pulling down its wider at the end, finish end, or if you go in
Oh, gravity has nothing to do with this one, I'm afraid.
effectively uphill, if it's the opposite case, like it's wider at the...
Well, that's a bold claim, isn't it? If gravity has nothing to do with it and your floor is sloping downwards or whatever, we don't know, you've not showed us, you've not tested it, you've just taken it for granted. It's the floor, it must be flat, it must be horizontal. Ain't necessarily so.
Yeah, no, there's no uphill, there's no downhill, there's not a real issue, blah, blah, blah.
Release then.
We got to take your word for it.
I mean, frankly, this experiment should have already been
Don't
done.
trust
Should already
you.
have the end.
This is my fault, and other people should have already done this experiment.
No, yo, 300 fucking years you've been saying something's true. Yes, you should have done the experiments proving it's true. That's right. Oh, it's just hilarious. So they really don't think science has to prove anything. They don't have to show you it taking 9 times the fuel to go 3 times as fast.
We've already shown you.
You people are just incredulous.
Just do these things by proven experiment. It shouldn't be. I shouldn't have to be doing this on my basement floor. This should be.
That run there, just go back. That ball, supposedly in contact with pencil, is in contact with pencil.
Yeah, so what? I'm doing like, whatever, 20 runs here. I'm just playing with it to see what happens, to see if any of them do the right thing. It doesn't matter if this one's touching, it's not touching. It doesn't matter whether it starts back here. It doesn't matter. None of that shit makes any goddamn difference. It's a proof of concept, fuckhead, not a proof of some statement about reality.
Well, as a proof of concept, it's failed. You've not proved the concept. To prove the concept, you have to measure things. You have to verify lots of things. And it might look a simple experiment, but it's more complicated than this one, which you could have done instead, and you chose not to do. Well, I can't be bothered waiting for that to load again. But anyway, you've seen it before.
It is a dead parrot. I mean, this is a dead theory, Gary.
It is a dead theory. My computer's frozen. Are we back on? Are we still recording? Yes, we appear to still be recording. Okay. 16 minutes into a 58-minute piece of crap.
Dumbass. Oh, God.
Experiment. It shouldn't be.
It's rolled away. It's rolled away.
Oh,
I'm interested, Gary is. In trying to do.
oh, it rolled away. That whole run is ruined. Oh, all the runs are ruined, you idiot.
Then why are you bothering to show them to us? It's pointless. You just like putting out a video every day, no matter how crap it is. So we might as well do the same.
With a fucking pencil. Shit. Oh, if they sold shit on the open market, you couldn't buy. This is like priceless shit.
Experiment diligently.
It's on my basement floor. This shouldn't be how physics is proven.
Well, it's fucking like how physics is proven. It's so ridiculous.
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, this is ridiculous, I agree. The pencil there, you can see, wasn't free to rotate properly. It's just a dead ball. It's quite easy, isn't it? And go back a little bit.
It's proven. It's just.
It's not free to rotate, is it? It's not like my ball.
Yeah, that's right. It's supposed to rotate, you fucking idiot. It's no purpose in it rotating, you fucking idiot. It's not its purpose. Its purpose is to do this. That's all.
It's supposed to be free to rotate. Otherwise, you were losing more energy than necessary to the fulcrum.
Rotate.
He's losing his shit a lot here, isn't he, folks?
Or minus marbles or disbalance of mine. Anything else, yours and yours alone is as sticky as it can be. It's totally unreliable piece of evidence.
Yeah, you're not doing an experiment that has anything to do with discovering the truth. So again, rotating levers doesn't really have anything to do with levers, frankly. Nobody rotates a catapult. They don't go, oh, let's go 470 degrees.
What about the one where you added oscillating? Where you were trying to prove the oscillation meant something when you had the masses hanging below the point, the pivot point. And you claimed that when we put the masses exactly in line with the pivot point and it didn't oscillate and we could move it and it would just come to a halt after rotating several times because it was free to rotate, and we had to prove that it was free to rotate, unlike you here, using a sticky nail or whatever. We could prove it just came to a dead halt and it would not oscillate. It would not oscillate even though it was free to rotate. That's the point. And you know darn well that that's the point. You lying sack of shite.
No, they just need that 90 part. Fuck ass.
Ability at all. They claim it takes, it keeps saying these ridiculous numbers. 9 times the fuel to go 3 times as fast.
Keep the subject, just talk about this. Stop trying to straw man the argument, talk about that, all the crappy arguments, stick to this.
Oh, so that's a straw man. So the whole point of me making this video is because they don't have any evidence. They haven't done any of these experiments. They haven't tried to find the truth. And one of the glaring ones is this, you know, whatever, 16 times the fuel to go 4 times as fast. These are...
I've done that experiment. Do I have to go looking for that one as well now? Now, what did I call that experiment? Let me have a look. Give me a moment. Might have had Tesla in the title. Oh, the computer's going a bit slow, so forgive me for the delay. Come on. Yeah, this one, yeah. I don't necessarily want to play it, but answering Tesla EV question, how much more energy to I suppose I could just run a little bit of it. Have to be a little bit patient. I know it's a long video already, this. It's almost as long as one of Gary's.
Hello. If you already know what the experiment's about, you can just jump 6 minutes in and skip all the arguing with Gary. But for those of you who don't know what the argument's about, it might benefit you to just stick around.
Let's skip 6 minutes in then.
That's 1.5 volts, okay, well, technically 1.5 volts, but it'll actually be 1.63, more like 1.64 volts. I'll write that down on my sheet. I'm going to keep a record, so
I'm only showing you a little bit. I'm not going to play the whole thing. That'll bore you silly. If you want to see the whole thing, you know where to find it. Oh, 3 new subscribers. It's not bad, is it? In a day, anyway. It's unusual for me. But anyway, thank you for to those people. Yeah, I'll just show you, give you the general idea of how I did it. Then I'll just jump ahead to the conclusion. Graphs or whatever.
1.64 volts, no load.
So running at 1.64 volts, and it's pulling those various amounts of amps in the early stages, comes out to 1/4 of a watt. So,
okay.
Then I double the voltage.
It went to 1.60 under load, then 1.60 load.
Right. Jump ahead a little bit. Now I've doubled the voltage, more or less.
3.2 under load.
Drawing more or less double the amperage, I suppose. I've not watched. Oh, now look how the wattage has gone up 4 times. The power has gone up 4 times. It's demanding 4 times the power at double the voltage, which is in line with what Ian Gosling said, proved. But this is with an inductive load, whereas Ian Gosling was using a purely resistive load, so you didn't have to worry about reactance. Gary doesn't know what that is, so he doesn't understand back EMF, etc. So wasting our times. So it's using 4 times as much energy to accelerate just 1.5 times faster. It still hasn't gone twice as fast, even though we've doubled the voltage and quadrupled the power input to it. So we have to go a second stage. Let me just jump ahead. What's the next one? Double the voltage again.
6.38 on the load. Okay.
So we're at 4.5 watts now. We've gone from 1/4 watt to 1 watt to 4.5 watts. Was 1 watt, wasn't it, the last one? Oh, and it's only going 1.44 times faster than the previous run. That's what I must mean, isn't it? Pardon me. It's not going 1.44 times faster than the very first run. I don't think that. I'm pretty sure that's not what I meant. The graphs at the end.
This at the beginning, never.
Double the voltage again. So 11.7 under start load.
11.7.
Now we've virtually quadrupled the wattage by doubling the voltage again, because the current goes up in proportion. It does complicate matters that this is, although these are DC motors, we have reactance to consider, the back EMF effectively. Let's jump ahead to, oh yeah, I did some graphs, plotted the results. So you need to take your time and look at these. It takes a while to study the results. I've taken the time to tabulate the results, so you can judge for yourself whether Gary is correct. The pink curve shows the reality of how much more voltage and amps are needed to accelerate a motor under load to twice the speed in just 1 revolution. And the green curve I'm just adding more detail here. There's a lot of detail written, and it's too much for Gary to bother to read. And so there, I'm pointing to the point where it actually does achieve twice the speed in just 1 revolution. Yes, so now the green curve shows, the green curve shows the fantasy of merely doubling energy to supposedly double the speed output, and it fails. Let's go back to this, the uncluttered version of that same graph. So the green version is Gary's prediction, and the pink curve, such as it is reality driving a DC electric motor, thus quashing Gary's silly claim that it's not been proven. Even I can prove it. It must have been proven countless times. Just because it isn't there convenient for him to find on the internet doesn't mean it hasn't been proven. These people aren't idiots. They aren't named Gary. Well, Gary, I can't say his surname, can I? Because he claims I'm trying to out him in some sort of way, even though he tells us his own surname sometimes. I don't give a shit about your surname, Gary.
Glaring statements by physics that just about everybody should say, oh fuck, that can't be the truth. That's just nonsense. So if your theory is dependent on that being true, it's got to be rubbish. And reasonable people should be able to say that, for fuck's sake. But
reasonable people should be able to see the evidence that people like me have made the effort to show.
All such whiny little cowards. You can't muster the integrity to say, yeah, that does.
Integrity? You've no room to talk about integrity. You're on people in glass houses.
Doesn't seem right to you either. I really don't think that's, if your theory says that has to be, then yeah, your theory's probably shit.
Does anyone else sense that he's losing his rag, losing his marbles? I think you interrupted in 5 minutes.
16 times the fuel to go 4 times as fast. 25 times the fuel to go 5 times as fast.
Is this all we've got to look forward to? You just repeating what you've said the last 2 fucking years, every fucking day?
Yes, until you respond to those actual remarks. Why don't you explain to me why it makes perfectly good sense to you?
Because I've just shown you. I've done it here. I've done the work. You haven't done the work. That's why. It's not belief. I didn't know what these results were going to be until I did it. I wanted to know whether you were right or wrong. You were wrong.
It takes 25 times the fuel to go 5 times as fast.
You need to also, I've said this before, you need to make a particular, I can't find the right word. You have to bear in mind that once you've got these things going at twice the speed, and it's taken God knows how much more energy, study the graph to find out. Once it's taken that much more energy, you still have most of that energy in the system through the momentum of it rotating, and you can claim that back again through, what did it call it? I've forgotten the term. Energy recovery system. KERS, kinetic energy recovery system. It's storing energy like a battery, in effect. And therefore, once you've got something going to that speed, you can claim a lot of it back. It's not lost. It's not all lost energy. Some of it is, obviously, but you can use that spinning. Well, you know what I shouldn't have to explain this, and most people already understand what I'm saying without. I shouldn't have to go into detail that you're not going to take any notice of anyway. You're so mad. You're not really listening. You're only listening to the sound of your own voice. You're preempting what we are thinking. You're prejudging. You're prejudiced.
Why don't you explain how race car drivers are just losing gasoline all over the place?
They use kinetic energy recovery system. Plus, the car, even without a kinetic energy recovery system, the car inherently has a degree of kinetic energy recovery, I suppose, because it's carrying momentum. Once they've accelerated it to some tremendous speed, and it took some tremendous amount of energy to get it to that speed, far more than you claim, because it's following kinetic energy rules, not your made-up NV version. But once they've got it up to that speed, as long as they don't have to waste it all in braking really hard to go around a corner, they could effectively just coast and carry on going at that speed, decelerating gradually, obviously, because of wind resistance and all that jazz. But the energy they put in hasn't been lost, but it took that much more energy to get them up to that speed in the first place. You seem to keep forgetting that there is such a thing as potential energy, and it's potential energy that they're then carrying. I think that's correct in saying it, because I'm not a physicist. I'm not the best at explaining this, but I'm better than you.
I mean, their car goes from 5 miles, getting 5 miles to a gallon, to going to getting, 5 feet per gallon.
Fast. And the same for impact.
I've got interest in this experiment because you're not even talking about this experiment, you're talking about other things. You're fucking wasting time.
They say if you're going 5 times as fast, you're going to do 20.
Am I really supposed to sit here and listen to you waffle a load of shit? Talk about this experiment.
So it's shit. That's what it is to him. These paradoxes, these circumstances that don't make any sense in conventional physics, that's a pile of shit. That's not worthy of discussion. It's not worthy of mention.
It's worthy of discussion, but not every fucking day until you come up with some evidence to support it. Good evidence, not crap evidence. That's why it's shit. I don't come on here every day, and other people don't come on here every day and repeat the same thing without backing it up with evidence. We just come on once in a while with some evidence, good evidence, not the kind that you've shown us here. We don't waste your time every single day with the same old crap. You do.
Should talk about that glaring deficit, and this is related to the deficit. I'm pointing out how, why don't we already know the answers to all of these experiments?
We do.
Shouldn't we already have on a table somewhere like like a multiplication table, like it's already written down somewhere. All of the permutations. Oh, you hit a 1 mass into a 2 mass, this happens. A 1 mass into a 5.
Watch this bar's video yesterday where he's using Walter Lewin's formula that comes out right. We do have it written down. It's just that you aren't able to follow it and you are unwilling to follow it. You are unwilling to apply it. You are unwilling to test it. You're unwilling to believe it, shall we say. Your belief is that it's wrong, and yet then therefore you're not going to take any serious notice of it. Just goes in one ear out the other. That's why I say you're a waste of space. A very dishonest man.
5 mass, this happens. Shouldn't that all be written down somewhere already?
It is.
Jackass. In 350 years, they couldn't.
It's been written down in the last 10 years, whenever it was that Walter Lewin made that video.
Find a pencil to write it down with.
It's not something else you moron.
5 times more damage. I mean, these aren't realistic statements. You know, it's crap. They should prove their crap theory. It makes extraordinary claims. It should come with better than crap evidence. And it's
We have proved. As far as you can prove anything.
Mike's better. Yeah, I liked it that way. Alright, back. Let's see if this speed is tolerable.
Fine time, you've got fuck all else to do with your life now.
Oh, whatever. Yeah, right. Right. I mean, just, all the videos, thousands of them, are online, going through all kinds of physics subjects.
Talking shite about them.
I mean, I played like 100 physics lectures.
And talked shite about them.
It's a lot of content, fuckhead.
It's a lot of bullshit content, fuckhead.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, and you're just demonstrating how little time you've devoted to understanding any of these subjects.
If you've got an hour every fucking day to talk shite, the same shite you talked about the day before, and the day before that, and the week before, and the month before.
Oh, right, you type shite, okay, about whatever, how you and your friends like to go out to the store and lick other people's food. Ugh.
Or the year before that. If you've got all that time to waste, then you've got time to spend constructing a half-decent experiment worth watching, not this piece of fucking.
Oh, okay, again, so what's the argument? Again, so the argument is don't show the experiment in progress. I just thought it would make sense to do that, just to show the process.
Well, why is it taking you 2 years?
Hey, look, this is what happens.
It should have been completed 18 months ago. If this was an important experiment, you should have already gone through this stage ages ago. And by the looks of things, the first experiment I had to look at earlier, because Minders Marvels referenced it, so I thought I'd better check that out now. Didn't know what the hell it was all about. You've moved on from this. I bet you've abandoned this like you abandon everything fucking else. With your half-arsed attitude to experimentation. Considering yourself a theoretical physicist. Theoretical physicist, my arse.
I didn't know what was going to happen. I did the experiment.
You thought you knew what was going to happen.
This is what happened. It's sort of interesting.
Because you do rely on belief, not evidence.
For what it's worth, what is the harm in publishing that?
There's no harm, Gary. I'm not objecting to there to be any harm. If you saw it through, if we had reason to believe that you would see this through to its logical conclusion, if you made a habit of doing this, showing an experiment from concept to finish, we would have reason to not bite you on the arse over it. We would have reason to think, okay, well, give the guy a bit of credit. Now, tomorrow he'll show us the better version and the better version. And in a week or two, he will have the perfect version that proves his theory or doesn't prove his theory. But because it never will prove your theory, you will abandon it before you ever get to that stage. You will just confuse the issue by what you have already done, come up with some other piece of crap to escape the hole that you've dug for yourself.
I'm just trying to understand why you have a problem with this process of me putting these videos up.
I have no problem with this process, but there's no need for us to look at it until you finish the process, got it somewhere near working. So you can give us some data so we have reason to believe that you're making the effort, and you're not making the effort. This is as good as your experiments get. They never get any better. This is as good as your experiment will get. You were saying it's proof of concept. Toady UK said his crappy experiment that he did live with when he was abusing a Newton's cradle, he said that was proof of concept, and he was going to go away at the weekend and come up with a much better version. And he never did he? You're all a bunch of shitheads.
And you making the choice to say this is interesting or it's not interesting. I mean, that's not putting too much pressure on you, is it? Like you have to hit the button that says stop because you're not interested in what the fucking pencil does? Fine, don't be interested. I'm not obliging you to be. I'm not making some critique saying anybody not interested is a total asshole. No, but I'm saying that maybe some other people would like to follow the same trail I'm following of reasoning about how to best do this thing where you're trying to minimize the amount of energy the experiment steals from the experiment. Yeah, not an uninteresting puzzle. It's like solving a little bit of a mystery. And maybe some other people would also say, yeah, that's interesting. So I published it. And that's it. No other reason, no other motivation, nothing else. And you're critiquing that. You see what an asshole you are? You're punishing somebody for publishing extra content.
No, I'm punishing you for pretending that this is just a proof of concept and that you're going to see it through to the end when you will finally prove your point, prove your theory. You won't do that because you can't prove your theory. If you went to the trouble of making this experiment, taking it to its logical conclusion, doing it with good quality materials, good measuring methods, good practice, your claim would fall down on its arse. The only reason you are claiming now that it's not falling down on its arse is because you're just using your crappy eyeballs to make a judgment about what's actually happening here. You're not measuring anything. That's my only complaint.
Yeah, like that doesn't have any value. But that's your whole attitude. You think those videos should just be buffooning videos. We should just do little, we should quote mine, take little jump cut clip.
Well, you've done enough buffooning from 5 years ago before I even fell out with you. I was being friendly with you. I was trying to help you, to explain to you why you were making an ass of yourself. I didn't put it in those terms. I was trying to be kind to you. I was friendly with you. I had a decent amount of respect for you for some unusual reason. I was giving you credit where it wasn't due. I was trying to stop you making an ass of yourself when you made 5 videos on the trot day after day, getting increasingly angry against Waterloo in claiming that his interference experiment, electromagnetic interference experiment using radar interference, as it was called, microwaves. I was trying to stop you making an arse of yourself, claiming that his interference experiment was actually a sound interference experiment, when it couldn't possibly be. So I tried to explain to you very politely, and you seemed to take that on board up to a point back then. We hadn't fell out. We weren't insulting one another. You only started insulting me and buffooning when you found me talking to Day, because you didn't like that. It had nothing to do with you. You weren't part of the discussion in that particular comment, but you chose to make it a reason to insult me and start going, like I talk like that, and I don't talk like that. You were the one who started the buffoonery with me, and you'd started it years before with other people. So, if you want to talk about buffoonery, look in the mirror.
You know, put our little Simpson quote in, Simpsons did it quote in there, do some other kind of little nonsense, and that should be video on the internet.
Why not? Entertainment.
That should be all people are entitled to, is
Not forcing anybody to watch it.
crap like your videos.
They have a wide choice on the internet with the thousands of videos uploaded every day. No one is forced to watch my videos. I put up what I want to put up. You put up what you want to put up. People are free to make their choice.
Amazing.
Crap. It's not even Blue Peter level.
Find something better. The ideal. We obviously wouldn't do good. This does it.
Obviously, this is what you call a draft, a rough draft, right? This is like you.
Everything you do is a rough draft, though. How about doing something where, for once in your life, you do it well? You're the one who claimed that you were going to fund an experiment using finely machined parts. You were going to fund it. It's never happened.
Do the pencil drawing of your painting, you know. Not complicated at all, really. It's just a rational part of the procedure. What works? Okay, when I figure out what works.
When you go for a meal at a restaurant, they don't drag you into the restaurant to say, come and watch us washing the plates, come and watch us scrubbing the vegetables. In fact, come along to us watching the vegetables being dug up. No, all you want is the end result. Has this chef made a fine meal worthy of the cost, worthy of his claims, or is he just trying to distract us by showing us his kitchen with cockroaches walking over the work surface and whatever? That's the equivalent of this.
Then I'll do it, engineer it prettier.
Yeah,
That's the least of your worries.
When it does absorb energy, it's fibers, so it's not the ideal thing to hit. This, with nails, they just have layers of plastic underneath it. And so they just kind of
I'll believe it when I see it, Gary.
It's not going to stand 100 times, but it's pretty liquid.
I'll believe it when I see it, when you actually do
Well,
do
it's
something.
funny that when we have a fulcrum that's shown to be perfectly free to rotate.
So again, he's talking about rotating. He doesn't know what a lever is. Levers don't rotate, retard.
They should do. You wanted them to rotate. You said to make the lever oscillate, it has to be free to rotate in order to oscillate. That isn't the reason the lever wasn't oscillating. The reason the lever wasn't oscillating, your idea, this concept was your idea. The reason the lever wasn't oscillating was because we put the masses in line with the pivot point, and therefore we showed that it won't oscillate. And if we used a pencil like you used here that was sticking and didn't want to rotate anyway before it even had any weight on it, then you would rightfully criticize us for cheating the experiment by having a lever that wasn't free to rotate about the axis.
It's not the point of a teeter-totter. It's to spin around in circles.
Not a teeter-totter.
You and Toady claim that it's energy is lost to friction, accounting for why we get a result.
So you just made that up. Sorry, you just made that crap up.
No, we didn't. That's the only claim you've had against all the experiments that Ian Gosling did. That when he showed that the lever slowed down due to I can't think of the proper term. You know, when you put the mass, half the mass further out, it went slower, and I showed that also. It went slower due to, what's the term? I'm not very technically minded, but it slowed down, and you and Toady blamed this on the fact that, not the fact, what you claim to be a fact, you blamed it on the friction of the fulcrum, the pivot. And Ian Gosling had to go to extreme trouble to show you that these things were free to rotate about the axis, about the pivot or whatever, the fulcrum. Too many terms that mean effectively the same thing in this context.
Yeah, that's what you just did.
Supporting kinetic energy theory. But when you do it, it's good enough that it'll rotate, a quarter of a turn before it comes to a dead halt. You're a complete fucking hypocrite.
So, big fat lie. I'm not using two different pencil levers and then saying the two levers are the same when they're not the same. Like you roll two things and one of them's hollow and one of them's solid, and you don't even understand that, you know, your whole point about rolling them is somehow important. I'm going to.
Well, in that case, how come the result came out perfectly in line with your claim when I launched them both together? When I launched them both together so that they were both being launched, they were the same objects, one was hollow and one wasn't, but they were 50-50 ratio masses. How come when I launched them at the correct velocities of a lever, precisely showed them to be the same, the correct velocities using a high-speed frame count camera to verify the speeds, they came out exactly the correct speed in line with even your prediction, and they only came out in line with the kinetic energy prediction when I launched them individually. Same objects, so it clearly made no difference one being hollow and the other being solid. It clearly made no difference when it supported your claim and everyone else's claim, because we were in agreement on the result when they're both being launched together. Made no difference. Well, no perceptible difference. Obviously, it makes some very, very, very tiny, irrelevant difference, equivalent to you claiming that you're not sharpening both ends of the pencil was a bit of a minor point. You were making a minor point by raising the issue that one of them was hollow and one of them wasn't. How else was I supposed to make the two objects have exactly the same mass? So how else was I supposed to make them have exactly 2-to-1 ratio masses, be exactly the same shape, same diameter, same width, without doing that?
Make the two things roll the same, and then you don't even understand that if it's hollow and if it's solid, okay, it means the dynamics are going to be completely different. And
No, can't be true, because if that was true, then your result, the one that we all agree on, that would have also came out wrong, and it didn't. It came out exactly right. That was the verification process, Gary. Launch them both together off the lever at 2-to-1 ratio velocities by placing them in the appropriate places on the lever. Measure the velocities using a high frame count camera, 120 frames per second. Count the frames, and I verified that they came out that the correct velocities that we all agreed on. For once, we all agreed with you on that point, and it came out correct. So being hollow made so little difference that we couldn't measure it using a high frame count camera. I don't doubt that if we were measuring it to some fraction of a percent, it would be a measurable difference. But because they were very small diameter, not the huge diameter roll of tape you've just shown us, because they were very small diameter, the rotational aspect was minimized to some degree. The hollow was quite a small hollow in the middle. That must have explained why it made no difference. You can't have it both ways. If the verification process hadn't worked out and they didn't come out 2-to-1 speeds, then you would have a point. But you don't have a point because they did come out the proper speeds, the ones that we all agree on. It was only the next stage where you disagree when I then launch them one at a time using the same spring, and then they didn't come out the way you predicted they would come out. You thought they would still come out at 2-to-1 ratio velocities, and they didn't. They won't, because that one spring can only give a certain amount of energy to each object, but when they launch together, it splits between them in line with, depending on where they're placed on the lever. It divides the energy accordingly, according to where they are on the lever. But launched individually, that doesn't happen. That 2-to-1 ratio doesn't apply anymore. And I proved that. That was the whole point. And that one being hollow made no difference, no perceptible difference. To focus on that is just desperation on your part. And I don't care if Mindless Marbles also raised that point at the time, because at the end of the day, I proved the point that the 2-to-1 ratio velocities, when launched together, they came out correct. So I'm getting muddled with my words a little bit here. But the verification process came out correct. And it wouldn't have done if the hollow had made any difference. See what I mean? You should do.
In terms of how it's going to roll and how much energy it's going to store in rolling.
Yes, we know Bruce Yeaney did a video on that. But I think if Bruce Yeaney saw my video, he would concede that it made little difference in that particular instance, because the diameters were so small, so to speak. You see, it was a very minor point. That's what I'm saying.
And you're too stupid because you haven't spent any time. You don't understand any of the theory.
I do. Well, I understand that much.
And you're just doing what you're demonstrating. Is shit talking.
I think it's you who's doing the shit talking, Gary, and has been doing it. He's doing his Cliff Richard impersonation again. I think it's you who's been shit talking from pretty much day one, just because of your petty mindedness, not liking me talking to your arch rival, Day. You getting upset about that and reverting to being a child, impersonating me, talking about this, when I don't talk like that.
Right.
Talking.
I fucking lying sack of shit hypocrite. You don't say. You don't fucking say. What about taking a tip from Michael Fowle? You call Michael Fowell, moron. Why can't you take a tip from him and invest some of your $4,000 where it is you're trying to bribe somebody into listening to you?
Whatever all this crap is again. What tip? He didn't do a lever. He doesn't do lever experiments. Where's his...
I think he did, but why the hell did he buy why do you think he bought a... What was that noise then? We're still recording. Why did he buy £15 worth, or whatever it was, of carbon fibre rod? Because it was effectively a lever doing the oscillation test he did. Yeah, of course it was the oscillation test, which is a lever of sorts. Well, we were arguing it's a pendulum, really, but you didn't want to call it a pendulum. It was you who goes around calling it a lever.
Lever experiment.
Why didn't you use some of that $4,000 to buy 15 quid worth of carbon fibre?
Why would I do any of that? No. Why?
Because you're supposed to have integrity and honour and virtue, and you don't have any of those things. You're supposed to be more interested in proving your case than shit talking. But really, all you were interested in is shit talking.
Why would I buy anything? That's your...
Because it's your claim against the majority of people in the world who have no issue with established science. It's you who does. You're the one making the extraordinary claim, so you are supposed to make an extraordinary effort, and you don't.
Your strategy, and then you blame other people because you waste your money. And you blame somebody else for you wasting your money. When I clearly say, don't buy it if you don't have to. That's stupid. Yeah. I don't buy anything I don't have to buy.
We've
That's my
noticed.
strategy. That's how I live longer.
So what did you buy all those cameras for filming outside? Who were you photographing outside? It's an interesting question, isn't it? You spent enough money on that, didn't you? So what's your little hobby? You're not going around taping cameras to your shoes, are you?
And prosper is don't fucking buy things you don't fucking need.
Which he did. He's a family man. He's got better things to spend his money on. But he made that.
Oh, and he doesn't. That's the whole point. He's a family man, whatever you want to call it, a slumlord. It's disgusting that any moron is allowed to procreate. Disgusting.
Sacrifice. He made the effort.
Well, I think most people here, most rational people, can see who's disgusting. It's the one turning his head away from the camera because he can't face the fucking camera in shame.
The effort to really carefully, to do the experiment diligently, and the fucking cunt like.
So again, what experiment? Experiments that aren't relevant. And then when he does, like I said, he did this idea of dropping shit on a spring, but frankly, we didn't get to see any of the details. So why should I sit there and say, yo, great video, when, I really can't trust it. I really don't think it comes out that way. So just like with Ian Gosling's, hidden clay experiment, I think that...
Still calling him Ian. Ian. Can't pronounce Ian. Do they call Ian iron in America? Surely not. I've never heard any American mispronounce words like this geezer does.
Truth is that you're going to find out eventually that springs don't store twice the compression isn't 4 times the energy. Okay, as much as you saying you think that's the truth, I think it's absolute nonsense. And I think...
Well, people keep proving to you that it's you who's talking nonsense. We don't go around saying this is what I think. We go around claiming this is what we've seen. This is what we've tested.
I think that truth will be revealed when those experiments are done well.
You come along and try.
Well, you do them well then, because it's you who disagrees with the majority. It's up to you. The ball's in your court.
Disparage it by talking endless shit about it, making all sorts of crappy claims about it. Ditto to Ian Gosling, who you think is called Iron Gosling or something. Ian Gosling is called Ian Gosling.
Oh yeah, who fucking cares? Again.
Most normal people care about how they pronounce somebody's name. It's just a matter of having just a reasonable amount of common decency, common respect for one another. I don't call you Gurry normally. Well, I don't say... I even avoid using your surname because you don't want your surname to be used, even though you use it. I have no reason to use your surname. But we publish our surnames, don't we? We're honest people. We don't go around hiding behind, a stupid myriad of names. Fucking hell. I'll never understand how you get away with being called this and then called something else and then called something else. What kind of a shady person has to have so many names to cut for his various identities? You should have one identity. My name is Stephen Brough. That's my one identity. I don't have any other.
And we don't even know if that's his real name. But anyway,
You're an idiot. Well, I suppose we don't know whether it's his real name, but he only has one of them. He doesn't have a multitude of them like you do.
Continue.
Called not Iron. Fucking giant.
Fuck you.
Think about that. Probably weighs 4 times, 5 times.
Yeah, why don't you know how much more he weighs? You should fucking know.
Who cares?
You should care, because that's the whole point of the experiment, you dickhead. You should know how much things weigh.
Yeah, it's not relevant. All that matters is it going to require it to use more energy out of the...
How do you determine that without measuring things reasonably accurately?
Experiment. How much energy is it going to steal, okay, from the conversion?
When you pay for electric, you don't say, well, I think I've used 50 quid's worth. Will that do? No, the energy company wants to know exactly how much you've used. Because it's just common sense.
You should have some proper half-decent scales that cost about 10 quid, for God's sake, you tight-fisted.
So again, he keeps talking about whatever these quid things are. I don't know what quids are.
A quid is a UK pound. I think it compares to, I think a dollar, an American dollar, is about 80p, 70p. I'm not sure these days. Obviously, the exchange rate changes, but it's near enough equivalent to a dollar for all the difference it makes, considering how much money you've got stuffed down your underpants. It's let's say $10 then, if that helps. A quid is a UK pound, 100 pence. Is that clear enough?
But frankly, it doesn't sound like a good thing. Doesn't, $10? Well, I'm not spending $10. Fuck you.
You'd spend them on fucking fags, wouldn't you? Cigarettes. Fags aren't your kind of fags, they're cigarettes, tobacco. It costs more than that for fags, wouldn't it? And you'd spend that on that, wouldn't you? Tight-fisted gits. You'll spend it on your cameras for filming outside, won't you? Spend it on your fucking real hobbies.
I have to, I live in America, okay? So in America, you got to pay $10,000 a year just to live, in property taxes. To pay for other people's kids, you have to go into the poorhouse. So, on a pensioner's income, very low pension, a pension that just barely covers my taxes. That's what I have. That's what I have to live on, fuckhead. I don't have money for cigarettes. I can't buy tobacco. I can't do any of that shit. Fucking asshole.
I'll send you some.
Miser.
It's
It's just shocking, unbelievable that this prick has been pontificating for 2 fucking years about this subject.
Right, and posting videos that are 5 minutes long, but you can't.
Hold on. Back up a minute. He was just pleading poverty. Well, how is he going to pay this $4,000 or whatever it is he's been promising to someone to self-advertise? That doesn't make any sense, does it? You'd think the man couldn't eat. I disbelieve his claims of being poverty-stricken, unable to spend $10 on some scales. Go on eBay, I bet you could buy them for $2.
Can't respond to anything longer than that, and you still won't respond to the actual videos just talking about the actual physics. And instead, they're doing this shit, whatever this shit is. Notice
This is the culmination of his efforts. This piece of garbage here.
All right, so that's what you get, right? So I guess I need to put something in here. Don't take this video too seriously or something.
That would be a good idea, yeah.
I mean, you didn't get the whole volume 1, volume 2, volume that, the idea was going to be that this was going to be a progressive thing. This isn't a...
Well, when I watched it, this was the only one I saw.
Opus. This isn't...
I don't have a crystal ball. I can't see what videos you're going to upload yet. I can't watch them, otherwise I would have watched the latest one.
The culmination. So that's a big fat lie. This video isn't intended to be to make any other statement than this is how the process of figuring out what works is a lever experiment. Period. That's it. A cheap version. This is how you do it when you don't have facilities and you don't have a laboratory and you can't do it in some fancy way. This is the way you have to do it. That's what this is. That's what the tape is indicating.
You offered me $300 to do that other experiment, and well, you could have spent $10 of that or less on some scales. Scales are essential to your claims, Gary. It isn't a luxury, it's essential to your claims.
Retard. Oh, amazing. And why am I having to do it? Because the person who said he was going to do it really isn't going to do it.
Who's that? Who are you on about?
Physicist Michael, why are you trying to tip him to the post, so to speak?
Because he's already conceded he has no interest in doing the real experiment. That's why he's made it quite clear. He has no intention of trying to figure out how to do the experiment the right way, and he just intends to do it sloppy, shitty, rubbery ways that keep confirming his free momentum theory.
I've still not watched Physicist Michael's experiment, to be honest, but I have no reason to doubt whatever results he gets, but I'll have a look sometime. Things like this eat up a lot of time, having to respond to a prick like this.
Alright, so we're going to comment on the Physics Michael video. Leave it, watch review, blah, blah, blah. Whatever. So, I'll talk about this.
Has he already done it? I've missed that.
I guess I'll find out how to do that. So, first video of we'll no doubt more than one. And so, till next time.
So he's playing it again.
Oh, half an hour critiquing now. Physicist Michael. Well, I'd better have a look at Physicist Michael's experiment when I get
He didn't even look at that video, so he doesn't even understand why I'm making this stupid lever experiment, why I'm wasting my time on this experiment. He doesn't even understand that context, that the only reason why I'm doing it is because, yes, it's kind of obvious that no one else will. No one will do this simple experiment.
If I had time, I'd make the effort, and I might do it better than you. Then you can critique my efforts.
time, but I do have other things to do. Better things to do than watch a fucking lying.
I hope one of them is dropping dead.
Good shit. Fuck off, Gary.
So, yeah, I don't know if I'll bother with comments until I pre-read them to see if, blah, blah, blah. I mean, really, there's no point. If they can't keep these comment sections clean.
Pre-read them. Yeah, because you can't give an honest, off-the-cuff response to things because you need time to think up your excuses, don't you? You always used to claim that I've not read these comments before, but you fucking obviously clearly had. You'd pre-thought out your arguments, your excuses.
Then I won't be doing any more of these response videos to anything they have to say.
You don't say.
Alright, so I'll pause and take a look.
Yeah, he wants to have a little look first.
Yeah, I've had a whole bunch of crap here in the description. Hilarious. Anyway, so look, he's putting his email after the title of the video. Interesting. Alright, if he's in the mood for doing experiments, I'm clearly not. I state right in the video I'm not in the mood. I don't want to do this. It shouldn't be my obligation. Amazing. Why isn't he doing the simplest one he said he would, decide things once and for all? Which one is that? The one with no rotational component to speak of, no fulcrum.
You know perfectly well what the experiment is. You've been told enough times. It was your idea. How come you're claiming not to remember what it was? It should be at the forefront of your mind.
Complications, just an object, any object, he says, it doesn't have to rotate. So he keeps doing this, the idea of shooting things, and I've already explained how that one's theoretically impossible for you.
What? The experiment he proposed?
You'll never get it to go 4 times the distance. You're just proving your launching device is a piece of shit.
He's deliberately strawmanning the argument by pretending that he thinks. He's pretending that he thinks I'm on about a different experiment. He knows perfectly well that I'm on about this experiment that he proposed. This one. He knows perfectly well which experiment we're talking about. This one that he proposed.
Free energy.
If you say so, Gary.
Springs with heavy objects and shoot springs with light objects. And
he knows perfectly well that that's the experiment I'm talking about.
you have no evidence that you launch things at twice the speed or half the speed. You have no.
Yes, we do. I use a high frame count camera and we can measure the frames, count the frames quite accurately.
No evidence of what velocity they had when they
Idiots.
left. And physicists, every single physicist on this planet, I think, will tell you that if you shoot it with twice the velocity off a cliff, it's only going to go twice as far.
But it's not going to go at twice the velocity released, as you claimed that releasing it by releasing the half mass, you claimed would go at twice the velocity. But it wasn't. It was never going to go twice the velocity. It was only going to go 1.4 times the velocity. It was your claim that halving the mass would make it go twice the speed, not ours.
Will go twice as far. It has.
Well, it will if it's going twice the velocity, but it's not going to go twice the velocity unless you make it a quarter of the mass, Gary. You know that to be true. You just deny it. Halving the mass won't make it go twice as fast. Quartering it will.
Too. Because gravity going down is separate from your vertical velocity. The two aren't the same. They aren't, the forces are independent. So he still doesn't understand that argument, even though I've said it to you, the audience, maybe a dozen times now.
Well, if the audience have swallowed that, then they've misunderstood what your claim was. Your claim was that launching an object off the edge of a table using the same any spring-loaded device, just halving the mass will make it go twice as fast and twice as far. And I showed that it won't go twice as fast. So it won't go twice as far. If we quarter the mass, then it'll go twice as fast and twice as far. Yeah. Look, it's you who made these stupid claims. You can't blame other people for your stupid claims.
Still hasn't heard the argument, I guess, as his claim. But I can't believe he's going over this again.
I'm going over it again because it was your claim. Until you do the test yourself that you proposed, the experiment that you proposed, I will keep going over it, and I think everybody else should keep going over it as well. Keep reminding you that you've talked shit, and now you're trying to dig yourself out of a hole by just pretending to your audience that halving the mass should have made it go twice as fast, and because it didn't go twice as fast, that invalidates my experiment. No, it was your experiment. You were the one who said it would go twice as fast just by halving the mass. It wouldn't. It was never going to happen. Never will. Can't.
So fucking pathetic. I'd see his own.
No, it's you who's pathetic by persisting with these claims, denying reality.
Own quick release elastic bands works just great. I pointed out in the experiment that it's still not right, you know. I mean, it was enough to prove you a liar and an asshole.
Why?
But the experiment still was under.
In what way was I a liar? I don't deny being an arsehole sometimes, but a liar? What was I lying about?
The things were going less than twice as fast.
Of course they were, because your experiment was flawed in concept. Your experiment was predicated on the idea that just halving the mass would make it go twice as fast. That's the whole point. It will not happen. It will only go 1.4 times as fast if you halve the mass, in line with kinetic energy theory, which you deny.
But he said any. So whatever this is, I don't know how anybody could. I mean, this is just such absolute nonsense. So you want me to replay your launching videos? Is that what?
Yes, do that.
You want me to do and show how you're an idiot?
Yes, do that. Try.
Okay, if that's what you want me to do.
Do it.
I can just replay the one, right, where you're launching the things and you said it's not going twice as fast, but even though I compress the spring twice as much, or whatever the hell it was. Yeah.
No, you straw manning now. You're on about a different video. I'm on about a different. I'm on about your experiment. Stick to the point. That's what this description is about.
To half mass, and it wasn't going twice as fast, and you had to give it extra to make it go twice as fast, and then you got a result.
Of course you do. Of course you've got to give it more energy to make half the mass go twice as fast, because it's physically impossible to make half mass go twice as fast without giving it more energy. That's why the kinetic energy theory is correct.
Of 14, and my prediction was 12, and your prediction was 16.
He's on about an air track experiment now, and that's irrelevant to this situation. We're on about his proposal that would prove things once and for all. The simplest experiment of all. Air track experiments are inherently tricky to do. There's a lot of complications with doing that. Therefore, you can't place too much reliance on the results where we were trying to compress springs that cause the gliders to tilt when the spring squashes, coupled with the fact that he denies that springs don't compress twice as much just by doubling the energy.
And you got the answer of 14. You want me to replay that video? Oh, amazing.
You can replay what you want, Gary, but it's irrelevant. Stick to the point. This piece that you're reading here is on about a different experiment. It's on about your experiment, the simple one that you should be doing.
Answer, because I already did it and came out with a perfect, so this is a lie. Lie, 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 lie.
No, it did come out perfect. I'm just showing you here. Not that one. This one. I did it and it came out exactly 1.4. This is the experiment we're talking about. Don't try and straw man talking about a different one.
Lie. Okay. Which means there is literally nothing he can do to improve it. Nothing. So it's just amazing that he could lie like this. He has a video.
No, he's lying. You are lying. Because you are a liar. By definition.
Okay, where he has something going twice as fast, that's half the mass, and then a full mass going half the speed, and he has them crash into a fucking spring. And the fact is, he got an answer that's impossible. It's neither kinetic energy or momentum is conserved. Neither one. Proving he sucks at doing experiments. All right.
He knows when he's. I'm talking to other people now. Gary knows perfectly well that he's trying to sidetrack you from the fact that he's never going to do this experiment that he proposed about 18 months ago, I suppose. I don't know when exactly. He's trying to sidetrack. Why do I keep pressing? I keep right clicking accidentally. He's trying to sidetrack you, distract you from the fact that he proposed this experiment, dead simple, and it came out against him. So he tries to pretend that I'm talking about a different experiment, an air track experiment, which is a lot more complicated to do.
It's almost like, why am I bothering? This is so stupid. I mean, he's not on the subject. Can you read this?
It's you who's not on the subject, deliberately.
Shit. Let's see, I guess I can move that over. Still not enough margin. Well, too bad. Okay. Let's see. The only way he could get half the mass to go twice as fast is by weighing it and wrongly guessing a quarter.
So you can't even read. So he's deliberately missed out the word. Well, maybe not deliberately. Maybe just because he's stupid. He's missed out the word not. Is by not weighing it, it says. And he's just said is by weighing it.
mass. So this is, he's saying a lever can't do this basic function that he already showed in his.
We're not on about a lever. Here, we're not on about a lever. We're on about his spring-loaded mechanism, elastic band, quick release.
Own video at doing. So he puts a lever on a spring, gives it the same compression.
He's on about another experiment now. See, he's trying to confuse his audience, who, some of them, not all, but some of them do clearly are stupid enough to believe what he's saying. 6 of them here. Look, 6 people have liked this video. And 6 likes in a day, that's not very good, is it? But considering, look how many subscribers he's got. 2,500 near enough. More than 2,500 subscribers, and he's got 6 likes on this, which proves that not that many people are stupid enough to believe it's garbage.
And he gets the result of 11 and 19, which is pretty close to 2 to 1. You have to.
Oh, he's on about he's on about a different one again. Yes, so he's deliberately avoiding the improved version of that experiment, the one we referred to half an hour ago, where he claims that the hollowed out pieces made such a big difference. I've got them here actually, just to remind you, it's easier than digging out the video. Oh, hang on a sec. Oh, these here. These pieces here. One's filled with lead and the other one isn't. So they're 50-50 ratio. So they're 2 to 1 ratio weights. Oh, shit, what have I missed there? Sorry, me. Phone died just so. Let me just check that. If I pause, then just put this on charge. I want to know who's calling this. Sorry, folks. If I pause, I'll probably forget to unpause it, and then that. Yeah, so I will pause it. Okay, unpause it. Right, let's carry on.
That's pretty close to 2 to 1. A quarter mass will go 2x faster and further, says you. A half mass won't. It will go 1.4 and no more. So he did the experiment. So he's fucking saying that 19 is 1.4.
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that that experiment was flawed because the half mass was skidding. That's why the results came out wrong. Didn't come out completely wrong. They came out, as Mandus Marbles explained, exactly halfway between the kinetic energy prediction and his, but only because the one that was supposed to be going twice as fast, or whatever it was, no, 1.4 times as fast, it was skidding. It was trying to, because it was lighter weight, it had less contact with the surface, and that's why I improved the experiment using objects which weren't going to skid. I was using pool balls, and the one that was meant to go twice as fast was going faster than it should have gone because it was skidding. And when things skid, they go faster because they're not being slowed down by the friction. They're just skidding along the surface. This idiot claimed that the skidding was slowing them down. No, the opposite. Skidding makes things go faster because they're not being slowed down by friction. They're not achieving traction with the surface. Otherwise, when you skidded in a car, you would slow down faster than when you applied the brakes, wouldn't you? Then you would slow down faster than when the car tyres were remaining in good contact with the ground. When you skid, you go faster and further than you intended to go, which is why you crash or whatever, because you're not being slowed down by as much friction as you otherwise would be. So you're not being slowed down by the brakes. if you brake hard and you skid along, then you're not achieving the traction. You slow down faster if you can remain in traction with the road, so that you're not slipping along the surface. Therefore, the object, which was meant to go at whatever speed, I can't remember now. I've been doing this for about 3 hours. It's getting 3.5 hours, so it's getting a little bit hard to concentrate. But anyway, he's talking shit, and I think most of you know he is.
Of 11.
Plus, he's talking about a different experiment than I'm talking about here anyway. He's deliberately distracting you. He's deliberately lying, pretending I'm talking about a different experiment than I am talking about. He knows perfectly well I'm talking about this experiment. The one that he proposed and will not do, as I did and showed him to be completely and utterly incorrect. So he has to distract and talk about a completely different one.
No, it isn't, retard. It's like 1.7, fuckhead. Alright, so 1.8. So your own experiment proves you wrong.
No, it only proved me wrong in terms of being mistaken to use those objects, because one was skidding and we needed it to not skid. And you pointed out that it was skidding. I overlooked that. I thought that the reason I was getting a slightly wrong result was because the lever was carrying more weight than it should have done on the far end, when I was only launching the full mass at the shorter end.
Amazing. That destroys his claim. See, so more just amazing that he can just lie about the.
It's amazing that this guy can just lie and lie and lie and deceive and pretend that I'm talking about a completely different experiment. He would rather you think that he was stupid enough to misunderstand which experiment I'm talking about than face the music. He's a coward. He would rather you think he was making a simple mistake, because he's that fucking that dumb, that he didn't really understand which experiment I was talking about. He knows perfectly well which experiment I'm talking about. But he'd rather look dim in that regard than the way he really is dim.
Crap he has done, the fucking lies about his fucking experiments that are all a pile of shit.
No, they aren't all a pile of shit. Some of them are quite good.
But we would spot it a mile off. The point he was being dishonest would. The proof he was being.
Look at him squinting, trying to read. It suits his purpose to not be able to read, doesn't it?
Dishonest would be if he got the half mass to go faster than 1.4. So he really doesn't think a lever can do basic momentum conversions. So unlike Sumner, for example.
Okay, so just found out my rent hadn't gone out last week. More great news.
Sumner, he doesn't think so. He doesn't think that big V and little m can be converted into big M and little v. He doesn't think that happens, that you can't conserve momentum.
Look, I think this has gone too far. I'm already 3.5 hours into this now, and I may continue this later, but I've got to be honest. He's already stated he's not going to bother listening to this anyway, so. And it's not going to be entertaining for anybody to listen to, not interesting, because all he's doing is lying. So I'm wasting my time, as we all are usually, I suppose, when we try to argue rationally with a complete prick. He's clearly deliberately strawmanning the argument in this case by doing his usual thing of pretending that he doesn't know which experiment I'm talking about. He always does that. He always pretends that he doesn't know what experiment I'm talking about and that he thinks I'm on about a completely different one. The one that suits his purpose. The one where I did make a little error and I subsequently corrected it. It suits his purpose to pretend that I never did correct it. So I think it's time to give up entertaining this moron. Because he's only going to carry on doing the same, and he'll do the same to you. It's not just me who does this. It's not just me he does this to. And he's been doing this for years, deliberately pretending he thinks you're on about something else. It's a tactic. It's a calculated tactic. And less people are falling for it these days. I think more and more people are realizing, Gary, come on, Gary, you can do better than this. And so it doesn't matter that he's got 2.61 thousand subscribers. It's meaningless. That's why there are only 6 people after a fucking day who liked it. And no comments. Because nobody is foolish enough to comment on it agreeing with him, because they know he's talking utter shite. They know I'm right. They know Mindless Marbles is right, and Michael Farrell and Ian Gosling, Piro, etc., etc. To see through his disguise of a person with integrity. That's the last thing this person has got. So I will leave it here for now. It's only going to be more of the same crap. I'm sorry it's such a long video. If anybody really has watched this, I've got to take my hat off to you. You know, well done. You're either a glutton for punishment, or you're just very, very, very a very good person. I can't think of the right way of putting it. Okay, thank you. Anyway, bye.